Uh, Hi. Who is this?
You're not going to believe this, but this is me. Time is a sphere, and I've been reincarnated during the same time period in which I exist.
Yes, but where did he come from?
From the future, obviously. Also from a parking lot at a gas station in Sonora.
Hello and welcome back to Week in Review. Great to be back with everyone. Looking forward to an awesome show today. Very happy to be here with you, Doovid. And I'll hand the floor over to you for the introduction.
Hey, thanks, Jennifer. Good to be back. Got Reviler White here. Thanks for joining. Yeah, I did an interview with this Australian streamer, and it wasn't live. She recorded it and is going to put together a series of interviews about racism. This woman calls herself Dia Latina. So I'm glad she reached out to me, and we had a nice talk. So we'll see what she does with that. So I guess this guy Reviler White, I'm not sure his connection to her, but thanks for joining us. And I missed an invite from Luke Ford today. He sent me an invite, but it was already a few hours late that I noticed it, and I was playing chess all afternoon. So, but I did appear on Luke Ford a few times this week, and had another conversation with Charles Moskowitz. Pardon me. I think it looks like I have Dr. Ed Dutton booked on my channel Tuesday, and I'm pretty sure Jennifer will be joining me with that. It looked like whoever Yehuda Finkelstein is sent a $5 super chat, recommended that Professor Dutton speak with friendly Jewish chap Doovid, and Oswald Spangler calls himself, occasionally appears in my chat or this chat. I guess was watching and posted that in the Discord, and I only check my Discord. I check it sometimes a few times a day, but it happened that I checked it close enough to when he posted that I saw the show while it was still live, and I tweeted Dutton and told him we'd be glad to talk with him, and then we DM'd Twitter, and it looks like Tuesday, although we talked initially in DM, and then he hasn't gotten back to me, but I think he said he might be busy till the day or two before, and he's going to appear on my channel, and I'll probably tweet that out later tonight, and I'll probably interview him over his corpus of work. He's written hundreds of articles, scientific journals, and he's reviewed hundreds of books. He's the author of books, and anthropologist that just has a lot of theories in line with entropism and Week in Review about why people do things, but a more anthropological approach. And he's basically metadata. So Dr. Dutton's in line with what me and Jennifer are doing. Although obviously we come from different approaches. I'm not sure what if he's nihilist or his religious approach, but obviously me and Jennifer are more spiritual, and he appears to be more atheistic. But at least he takes an intellectual approach to understanding why people do things, what motivates people, and a meta-analysis of that. So should be interesting. I've read through quite a bit of his stuff. I've been watching.
Yeah, he has the constitution of an atheist, but he appears to be supporting religion from the survival strategy standpoint on at least one occasion.
Yeah, he might not have a consistent, coherent worldview. I mean, he might have just discovered a lot of interesting things and never developed his own unique, consistent, coherent worldview, which very few people do because it's near impossible to. And even just my own attempt to do it is why I've been working on the multiple truth hypothesis, because it could be it's impossible to build up a consistent, coherent worldview. I mean, not even needing to claim like Gödel's incompleteness theorem on that, but for multiple other reasons.
Well, I think the way to put that is that we can't know the truth of the universe in the language of the universe, because we only have our own, like it's our subjectivization that allows for us to conceive of the things that we do in the first place. So without the subjectivization, to what degree is the externality real? We can have some idea, we can have ideas that are coherent with that or consonant with that, but I don't know if we can, I don't think we can know the facts of the universe in the language of the universe. So yeah, that in and of itself is kind of a bit of an absolutism, but at some point, like, there has to be a negotiation between, like, it's not pure determinism, but it's also not pure solipsism or sophistry. I always confuse those two words. Why? Oh, that reminds me, something cool that happened is I realized, are you a good speller? That wasn't what I realized, but I just thought I'd preface the explanation.
Not particularly. I mean, like, relatively, I'm probably quite a good speller, better than most people, but it's not something that came natural. It's something I had to work at quite a bit. I have a tendency to misspell words even till today. But I mean, but relatively, I'm a pretty good speller, but it's not like math and numbers that I had a natural proclivity towards. Spelling was something I didn't have a proclivity towards, and worked at.
Oh, cool, because I had a proclivity towards it, and I even won a province-wide competition in spelling in French. And I was trying to figure out, what is it that I'm doing that's allowing me to spell this well? Because, like, I mean, me in books, and obviously I indulged in childhood, but hardly what you would consider an avid reader. So, I think what it is that there's the way that a word in its totality looks is a certain shape, and you have a subconscious memorization of the shape, and that if you see a shape that is causing cognitive dissonance with that shape, i.e. it's almost that shape but slightly different, you know that it's misspelled. So you just keep spelling it different ways, or rather I do, until it looks right. So I was thinking, like, that's a good the length, like, I think we have to address the information problem, quote unquote, the information centralization problem, and our ability for language, if we can, like, understand how we memorize or learn, like, maybe memorize isn't even the right word, but yeah, I just realized that was a cool explanation. And I've got a guy that said he would come on the show. He's super cool. I haven't sent him the link yet because we haven't done the intro yet. So did you want to do your opening chant?
Yeah. So let me do a quick Hasidic chant, and then maybe I'll just talk about coronavirus a few minutes, because could be we're in the calm before the storm, and that, God forbid, cases are at all-time highs. My area is just pushing for new towards lockdown measures, closing down indoor dining and different facilities that have just been opened, high schools and colleges. And it's likely that in 2 or 3 weeks, there's going to be an unprecedented number of deaths, and the hospitals are again going to be filled over capacity all over the nation, maybe all over the world, with COVID-19 patients, God forbid. So we'll just look at a little bit of the data. It's probably important to talk about. Last week I mentioned this Hasidic group referred to as Krechnov, which was a group, Romania, Hungary, that after the war relocated to Jerusalem, New York, Williamsburg, and England, London, maybe Belgium, a few other places, possibly South America, and there's a Rebbe, a leader. There's actually a few now because they have branches, and it's a big rabbinic family. So there's so to say, a Rebbe, a grand rabbi in multiple different locations that are largely cousins with each other, intermarried in different ways, and they have different tunes that they're known for. So I sang last week one of the first ones that I'd heard when I got to Jerusalem. And if you walk the streets in Jerusalem on Sabbath, you hear people chanting, and to some extent you could just join in, and it's part of the theology. So there's one mantra that almost all Hasidic groups chant Friday night, and even dance around to, like in a circle at least, holding hands, or hands on the shoulder. And for whatever reason, the Kabbalists determined that this special mantra should be chanted and danced to, and it's a relatively simple mantra. It's from the Sabbath liturgy, Taniva Shevak, Shevak Yikar, Yitnu Kel, give pleasant praise to God, for God gave rest the Sabbath to us. And just like a mantra that's part of the Friday night prayers, the added special Sabbath prayers, and I guess it epitomizes kind of the essence of Sabbath, and in theory the Hasidic approach, where it's important for the adult males at least to gather and chant together on Friday nights. And this mantra specifically is mentioned, and that people should dance around, at least like holding hands in a circle too. So I went to a school, Doooovid, and they had two different tunes to it. Quickly, it was like a clever, catchy tune, but I'm going to sing the one from Krechnov, which was in my mind a much more interesting tune. But the Doooovid one, and I don't remember if I know both of them, it'd be like Tani Shevak Shevak Yikar Shevak Yikar Yitnuel Tani Shevak Shevak Yikar. And there were two different tunes, but in Jerusalem, this group, Krechnov, they just sang the first few words. So a lot of times, like, the mantra is supposed to be chanted and there's a tune to it, but they'll just say the first few words, and then it's chanted as a tune. And this tune is popular more than just that. And I don't know the exact origins of the tune, but I first heard it in Krechnov, to which they used it for Tani Shevak, which is a popular Friday night mantra. But among Hasidim, it's a popular tune that could be used for any mantra, and you might find in various synagogues, Hasidic synagogues, this tune's from the repertoire of a lot of rabbis. So with that, and it's got a bridge to the high part. So this is the classic Hasidic tune that's a meditation on the four-letter name of God, with the Yod He Vav He, with the second part repeating, and kind of like going from the material realm to the heavens, back to a stable point, and a musical meditative form in a theme and variation form. And the high part has a bridge, and it's meant to be congregationally chanted. so that the high part would exert out of the person like full vigor in chanting, that if they started at the beginning and chanted with the congregation by the high part, the person, so to say, would be giving over the full of their physical forces to the service of God. I ay, 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 did I am. Ay, 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 did I, ay, 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 nine, 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 ay, 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 did I, ay, 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 oh, ay, 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 ay. So if you weren't familiar with the ritual, everyone gets up at a certain point and dances in whatever way. I mean, not like in a ecstatic way, but usually just a simple circle, holding hands dance that common, I guess, among Hasidic men. But if you didn't know that was coming, it would be the ritual. It would come with the tune, and someone would start that ayin and ay, and everyone would stand up and start dancing, and it's based on the recommendation to chant this mantra, and over periods of time, different sects and schools that follow the same spiritual sages, masters, and chant this mantra, develop different tunes that are recognizable, that if you're from a Hasidic school, you would know, like, of course, we're Hasidim, of course we dance and chant Tani Shevak Friday night, like all the Kabbalists recommended doing that, but you would recognize the sect by the tune that they used. And Hinduism is very similar in that way. And I think it's, Diwali, so like Jai Ram, happy Diwali to people. I made my own paneer, heart of palm paneer. But Hinduism is also similar in that way, where the various people are going to be chanting the same mantra, but the sects are largely defined by the tune they use for the mantras.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I wanted to welcome a guest to the show, which we are super appreciative of. And are you going by Nano? Because we didn't discuss what we were going to call you on stream. So did you want to just introduce yourself real quick?
Well, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming through great, bud.
Right on. Yeah, Nano's good.
Cool. Well, Nano is, I wasn't sure how to introduce you, but I was going to say like a cultural anthropologist. That's when I think of all the things, all the words that could describe you, that seems to be like your insights are like on the level that it would definitely rise to that level. This guy's super cool, Doooovid. He's like, I don't even know. Why don't you just tell us, like, I was trying to remember how we met, and I was like, somehow on the internet.
Well, yeah. Sometime during the 2015 electoral process in the United States.
Oh yeah, that was it. Must have been the memes that brought us together.
Well, is this your first time streaming, or are you a streamer also?
Well, I stream sometimes, but I haven't for probably a couple of years, really. I just do it for fun. I go on other people's shows mostly.
And you got your own streaming personality or just subject expertise, or are you?
No, I like the technical aspect of it mostly. Like I used to produce a Christian live stream, so I'm into the technical side of it more than anything.
I mean, you provide services for other people that stream.
I used to. I really hate it. Honestly do. Like I used to be I used to be a cinematographer, and it killed my joy for it, so I quit doing it.
Yeah, I mean, Jennifer does that. I mean, largely, me and Jennifer, I guess, largely just enjoy helping people when possible. But I think both of us have spent a lot of time just teaching people how to stream, how to use the basic equipment, tech levels. Obviously, that's important. I was considering investing. In fact, I already have a few $1,000s I set aside for it, but I still am looking into what the best way to do to take my streaming to the next level. What type of equipment I should buy.
Well, we have
But
to make it a Christian channel. Didn't I have
Sorry?
the idea? I said we have to make it a Christian channel, didn't I?
Yeah. Oh my God. My life is just so full of contradictions.
well, if
Here
you
I
open up the
am.
mantra, you say like every Hasidic synagogue, every Hindu temple has a sound system and a sound guy. You're saying like you need a tech guy, like even like Hasidim that are anti-technology, like like I mean they don't use it on Sabbath, but like everyone has like a sound system and a tech guy.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I wish that I knew how to write software. That would really help. Just to write my own software.
That's the thing that like you have to learn whatever it is that is going to implement your vision, and that's
Yeah.
the part. Like
So you're
basically,
not pushing anything. You don't have any like agenda or views or theories you're pushing in streaming. You're just kind of like a tech guy who likes
No, I
technology.
definitely have an agenda. Like my agenda is I want to minimize government and authority to the greatest extent that I can.
You're a libertarian like me.
Yeah. So
But
yeah, I mean that's my agenda. I don't know if
enough
there
so that that's
exists a
why you
person
come
in the
to
world that
stream.
doesn't have an agenda. Sorry?
But I mean, enough that like that you come onto streams because you want to argue in favor of libertarian ideas, or that's just one of the aspects about your personality.
Both. Yeah, that's the last stream I was kicked off. The last stream I was kicked off of was for defending libertarianism and Stefan Molyneux. Like, people can say whatever they want about Stefan Molyneux, but when you start calling him a cult leader, that's when I'm gonna push back. I mean, it's pure media propaganda that people swallow, and yeah, I'm just not gonna stand for that. I mean, if you want to argue his ideas on the merits, then fair enough. But
So,
so
are you
yeah,
actually a
I was
professor
kicked off a
in cultural
libertarian stream.
anthropology? Yeah, are you actually like, an academic, or that's just like your interest, or is it like some
That's
sort
just
of?
my it's just my interest.
like I'd say his commentary out of all the commentary is definitely top 10%. Just
Well, are
very
you?
insightful commentary. He doesn't speak unless he has something to say, which is sort of the way I am, which is what makes it so hard to stream. But I kind of,
Yes.
in a way, want to encourage you to do it more because you are that incisive that, like, you actually, I don't know exactly how
Like I
to.
admire Tim Pool because he can come up with content every single day, 3 or 4 times, and I look at that like a superpower. I'm like, I don't know how he does it because I can't do that.
I
It's
mean,
an
research and preparation, and
excellent
Yeah.
at some point, a staff.
I just can't. I can do that, right? But I wouldn't be convincing, and I wouldn't enjoy it, and therefore the purpose would cease to exist for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't have a background in media, it's. I mean, you might be able to produce a show like that once a week or every once in a while, but if that's what you're going to do, um, and even like we do on Week in Review here, like the development of personality, where you have to create yourself a persona that it makes sense to people, that even if there's a value proposition in the information that you're giving over to them, that you have to create some sort of personality that it makes sense that you're the purveyor of this information to them.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's pretty essential, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it just there's a psychological factor too, that I mean, you're not just gonna listen to a computerized voice give you information. There needs to be some sort of connection where you, at least even if it's an anonymous person, that there's an personality that makes sense, that there's a value proposition that this person is providing this information is useful and trustworthy, and there's a medium of exchange and possibly some reciprocation between the personality, even if that personality isn't directly representative of, so to say, the in the real life you, because your personality is facilitated by the machine. So it's not really you. I was saying, like, I mean, me and you are really talking, and Jennifer are really talking, but it's
Yeah.
possible in real life it would be different, because machine facilitated human interaction is of a different nature than non machine facilitated human interaction.
Sorry to interrupt here, but there's people in the chat who want to come on, and I just cannot access my internet right now because my OBS is taking it all off. So Doovid, if you don't mind just sending the link to whoever you want whenever you want, and I don't mind if you want to hang back a bit and just have this chilled out combo with Nano. But yeah, I mean,
maybe if Dia comes on, honestly,
what
I
was
don't know.
like? I didn't.
I sent the link to Dia
Okay,
on Twitter. So if you're still watching Dia, I just twittered. I don't know who Reviler is. I don't mind having him on, but like,
I don't want to do something where I have to take the stream down because somebody said something that's going to make me paranoid that the stream's going to get reported. That's my only.
No.
Dia, I mean, she's a streamer. She's got a channel. I don't think she's going to do anything stupid.
No,
And if she knows this guy, maybe we'll bring him on too. But it's too much of a risk these days to just give the link to someone who might potentially do something stupid to destroy the channel. So are you a regular Week in Review watcher, Nano? Was there something you wanted to talk about specifically?
No, to be honest, I didn't even know what we were going to talk about.
I wanted to have
events, I think.
I wanted to have him on because we've known each other for like 5 years now, and I wanted to know how you perceive the changes in the online culture in the intervening time.
Oh yeah, well, I couldn't be any more optimistic about that. I've never been more optimistic about that.
About your vision of the world being something that could come to fruition.
About internet, well, yeah, I guess so, but more about internet culture being finding more of a nuanced discourse. I know that it sounds pretty absurd, but I think we're there right now. Like, people's ideas of the world in terms of like normal nomenclature are pretty much gone at this point. And I think that's what we're going to see more and more going forward.
You mean like
over the next couple months?
Like a new language associated with what exactly?
Well, everybody's been looking at everything through the lens of left and right, and media narratives, and that's all gone. I mean, I just learned this morning, Time is looking to sell CNN. It's essentially worthless. They don't have any buyers. It's just an example, but I mean, normal news aggregation.
That's fucking awesome. No buyers.
The way that people. Sorry?
I said that is fucking awesome. There's no buyers.
Yeah, like yeah, nobody's interested in it. So it's probably going to sit there for a couple months as the price just plummets, and I'm thinking they'll just shut it down, because who's going to buy it? I mean, Disney bought Fox, and they went $30 billion further into debt. and it's worthless now. I mean, what did their viewership just drop? 30, 40%? So anyways, what that has to do with, current events is, I think the way that people speak about current events is going to change very dramatically over the next little while here. They're not going to have any frame of reference. They're going to actually they're not going to be able to turn on the TV and see what so-and-so at 6 o'clock is saying. They're going to actually have to stop and think about things for the first time in a long time.
They're just going to defect to a new dictator. You overestimate their autonomy, but I like that about you. I think it's important for people to overestimate people's autonomy in some way because it gives them hope.
You're right. They'll find something on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. They'll go find something on the internet. That's very. Thank you, Half Coalition, for saying happy Diwali, and welcome to the show, Dia. I have no idea who you are, but I appreciate you coming on. And this is Nano, and I've been following his content for a while, and his videos and posts and stuff. And Doooovid is the guy I do weekly with, where we sit back every week and judge the shit out of everything.
Okay, yeah, to try to bring this together. Yeah, so Nano is a friend of Jennifer, and I guess he's interested in cultural anthropology and technology and various things, libertarianism, streaming, and we'll sometimes on Week in Review we have a slower, drawn out hours and hours conversation. Usually not. I'm usually more like straight to the point. What's your name? Who's your daddy?
Sometimes we get off in pill pull, and then it ends up like an hour and a half.
Well, I mean, we're interested in ideas, and we're also interested in streaming. Dia is a streamer in Australia who I guess was referred to me by this guy Reviler to interview me, and she's doing a documentary on
race.
Yeah, race, and somehow I came up, and so I agreed to be the Jew. I love being the Jew and explaining Judaism. It's what I do. I checked her channel, and even in Australia, there were some similar names. I saw she had Philosophicat, and I've never spoken to her, but I know Josh Neal and the Public Space. You should have been on that channel, and Adam Kokesh also on the Public Space. I mean, neither of those people I've ever spoken to, but we had known similar names or in similar circuits. So we did the interview. She didn't even have that much time to explain what she's doing, just enough that I agreed to it. So I'm glad Dia joining me, and Jennifer and Nano Week in Review. Did you want to introduce yourself and any bio information or streaming? And we try to be like a colloquium of micro streamers, like a union of micro streamers and kind of like coaching streamers on things like technology, a lot of things like making money, the laws, censorship, or just common best practices that streamers of all form might be able to develop and share with each other.
Are you talking to me?
I was just trying to be a general conversationist, but yeah, I'm turning it over to you to introduce yourself to Week in Review.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm Dia Beltran. I do interview all types of people, libertarians. I've had far-right white nationalists on. I've had leftists on. I'm anti-abortion. I want to limit government as well, limit immigration. I talk really about a myriad of different topics. It's not just one thing. But and so the thing that I'm doing is like a mini documentary or maybe video essay. I'm not really sure what the word is for what I'm doing yet, but it's just a look at race. And I'm still struggling to acquire a Black nationalist. But I have the far right white nationalist on. I've now had you as well, and I do have a black person who will be on my show as well. But he's far from a racist. In fact, he encourages Christianity and unity. So I'm excited to put this whole thing together. I need an African American or someone who is pro black, and that's proven very difficult task to undergo. But that's all right. So thank you so much for for coming on the interview with me yesterday. It was so nice of you.
This is on Google, right? YouTube, Google.
What my video essay?
This broadcast.
It's on YouTube right now. Yes, I can see it. It's on the screen.
Okay. No, I'm just curious because talking about that stuff, that'll blow you up on YouTube. That'll blow up your channel.
Well, I'm not even sure I'll have it on YouTube. I might have to put it on BitChute just in case it's too controversial.
Oh, right on.
I don't really know what's going on.
I didn't even know that Google Hangouts was still a thing, to be honest.
Neither did I. I thought they got rid of it.
If you're into streaming, this is like, because we just do Week in Review and we have people on and put them on together, and so we just try to keep it interesting for our viewership, having different people on at the same time that might have different topics or interests to speak about, and also just for the benefit of streaming. Me and Jennifer are both debaters. We enjoy
I love debate so much.
Science and spirituality, and in a format more academic, educational, but we also streaming in general. So I don't know if and I guess Nano's he's not really a streamer. I mean he's a guy with ideas that streams occasionally. But I mean, I guess Dia, you're a straight up journalist. You have a background or educational background in journalism.
No, I don't.
But you do have a pretty big channel. You look like you had over 6,000.
I have over 6,000 subs. I would not call that a big channel by contrast of others. But I do have a diploma in political science, and I am certainly looking to.
This guy again.
I'll disarm there.
You've been on the show before, and I had to take it down.
I know. I'm sorry about that. I apologize.
Don't make sure you behave, Rev. Don't be a dickhead.
He can't be here.
Oh, you're saying he's been here before? You know this guy, Jennifer?
Totally fucking torpedoed the show, and I gave him several warnings, and he was just a fucking rabble rouser. And you know it, bud. You're not interested in what we're talking about on this show.
I am. I don't know what you're talking about, but I want to know.
What do we talk about on this show?
Well, just to resolve the basic level of karma, you heard about Doooovid because you know Church of Entropy and Reviler.
Because of Reviler.
You were looking for a Jew to talk to.
I was looking for a Jewish fellow.
Because he
recommended you.
But he probably knows me through Jennifer. That's how he knew to recommend me, was because he knows Jennifer.
Well, first of all, hi, Jennifer, Miss Entropy. I did not come on here to be disrespectful. I apologize for the last time. I know the limitations and the boundaries of what I can and can't say, and I'm not in the company of the same people with the same political supposed extremist views that I have, so that's not what I came on here for. Thank you. If you're gracious enough to have me, I actually have a book I just finished here, if you guys can see that, Will to Power by Friedrich Nietzsche. So I don't know the topic. I'm sorry if I was acrimonious last time. I will not start fights with Doooovid. Doooovid and I will have hopefully our own thing going on in the future on my BitChute if he's gracious enough. So I want to put that out there. I'll be right back. Sorry. Hopefully I'm still allowed.
Can you turn your game down a bit because you're clipping like hell? Anyway, sorry about that. I have to have a strict policy on trolls because otherwise things just get out of control. And I don't judge you in any way. Dia, is that your name?
DIA.
Don't worry about it. I'm really glad we could talk. And
is it fair to say the relationship between Dia in Reviler is similar to the relationship between Church of Entropy and Reviler?
Possibly. Rev, I interviewed him as well for my video essay. Gosh, I wanted it to go for an hour. It went for like 2.5 hours. It was exhausting. So he can be very articulate and he can be wonderful, but then other times he can be exhausting. And so I understand the trepidation. I understand Jennifer's emotion upon seeing him. But if people give him a chance and he's not misbehaving, he's quite entertaining and quite interesting to listen to.
I mean, you both as female streamers that put yourself out there and are willing to some extent to speak to whoever comes to your broadcast, that both you and Jennifer have had run-ins with Reviler.
Yeah, he's the maximum entropy streamer. He's just everywhere.
I don't know what you guys refer to when you say the entropy stuff. I don't know what any of that means. But
don't worry, nobody does, and it's like a big joke where like literally nobody knows, and then I just get to be right about everything. Well, like maybe 10.
Oh, okay.
Well, just say it's a different part of the internet where these two have ran into each other before.
I'd say so.
Okay, so what do you want to do here? It's Week in Review, and largely me and Jennifer forward our own research, but at the same time we like introducing, meeting new personalities. However, we got 3 new personalities all on at once, and because we're not like a professional show,
No,
a lot of
neither is
times we
mine.
just talk about this, we talk it out on air, so kind of like broadcasting, producing, you could, like Luke Ford style, you could do like 2 minutes each and just like give a question or topic and go to people, or you could try to be more professional and just like 15 minutes in the next, and then the next, or you could try to find some interesting topic that is fitting for all of the guests to talk about, or sometimes because Week in Review, keep it kind of neutral and just talk tips and trades and best practices of like streaming and interviewing and various things.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
So I just want to know what you're going to talk to that fellow about. Dutton. Yeah.
Well, Rev is part of the same doco that I'm trying to put together. So I'm assuming that'll be the main topic. I hope it doesn't go on like unnecessary tangents.
If you want to, maybe it makes sense then for Dia to just, or if you said enough, or if you want to go into detail about what your project is, who you're speaking to, what you're trying to do about it. Maybe some of the personalities you've already ran into that, some of the people watching now or who might watch this might have heard of, or, the direction maybe that you plan to go in streaming, or even in education or ideas. Like, what do you think about, do you have any interesting ideas or unique theories that you're developing, or interesting people that you're working with that is noteworthy to bring to the attention of other streamers?
I don't really know. In terms of like bringing attention to other streamers, I'm not really. I was recently on Adam Kokesh's show. He has Adam versus the Man, and I enjoyed my time there. That was really fun. This week I'm interviewing a relatively big Australian on my Wednesday night live stream, which is Ross Cameron. He's quite the name here in this country. Bit of a libertarian / conservative, I'd say maybe. And just regarding my my stream, I have Gypsy Crusader, who is a rising star. I guess that's the wrong word to use, because he's a far right white national socialist. That's what he calls himself. But he's in my documentary thing that I'm trying to put together, and so I was interested to have someone who like him, who thinks like him, but also interested to have someone who thinks like him but on the opposite end. But that's what I'm struggling with, to find But like I
You're looking for
Sorry?
a black nationalist?
Yeah, I am, but it's very tricky. It's very tricky because we're at least not to like pat white nationalists on the back. They're honest. They go, yes, I hate these groups. Whereas the black nationalists don't seem as open. At least I'm struggling. So
I suggested it was just geographic that you know, like Australia, there's not a large number of blacks, but like, you know, like in Detroit, there's
It's
a large
irrelevant.
number of blacks.
I got you on. I got you, and geographically, you're far, far away from me. And I managed to get you. I managed to get Reviler. I managed to get Gypsy Crusader. But I'm struggling to find an African American, despite the geography. The internet is unity. So that point is really not relevant. Because I just need. Yeah, it's just a struggle. That's my point.
And how do you go? You just reach out. I saw you also had that female boxer on. I watched a little bit of that.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. That was really nice of you.
How do you go about booking these interviews? Are you your own booking agent, or you know,
I'm my own booking agent. Yeah, I'm my own booking agent, but I have lots of different friends who go, oh, interview this person, interview this person, interview this person. Like I get lots of different suggestions, and that's really helpful because by now I would have run out of people. It's been 3.5 years of me interviewing different people, really well-known people too. And I'm like, oh, I would have completely run out by now if I didn't have people saying, oh, this would be an interesting person for you to interview. So, yeah.
So you're scraping the bottom of the barrel and you've ended up on Week in Review. How fitting, isn't it?
That's horrible, Jennifer.
Well,
I'm happy. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to meet you.
Oh, well, me too. I appreciate it.
Don't be silly.
Well, how will
Don't be silly.
know when the documentary is finished?
I hope just like 2 or 3 weeks. But again, I was trying to make a trailer today. I was working on making up the trailer, and then Rev goes, "Oh, Doooovid's willing to have you on." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, why not? Like, I have the time right now, but as of tomorrow, I won't. I'll be working full time, so it'll take longer than I want it to. I know that's what will end up happening."
Cool. Well, I hope it goes really well and that it's compelling. I don't think I'd have the patience.
I hope so.
I don't think I could make a documentary, to be honest.
Yeah, I understand.
Why did you want
to? I
to?
like documentaries. I don't watch movies or fiction. If I would do anything, it's documentary. I don't think I would make a documentary. You know, if my programming's more straight educational, but I support documentaries, and you definitely encourage that. And like you asked me to be in a documentary, I was happy to say yes, and you come on Weekend and even invite you on Week in Review to promote your work.
May I quickly, briefly posit that Jennifer, without using people's real names, I'll just call her Miss or Mrs. Entropy. You should really add Dia. You and her would get along very well because the bottom of the barrel is by no means the Church of Entropy. It is Reviler. So I wanted you to know that.
You're clipping.
That's probably true.
Clipping.
And she will not have me on her YouTube show. She's like, if I talk to you, you know, we can't ever talk again publicly. I'm like, all right, you know, well, you know, you know what? She's one of the people that, let's just say, I would ordinarily be against for a variety of reasons, but she's honestly one of the sweetest, most compassionate, and most honorable, like my es trio honorable people I know. But go ahead, I'll shut up.
Can you stop the clipping? Dude.
Clipping?
Rev, check your audio. Check your audio, Rev.
You are about 15
man.
higher than everybody.
All right, I'll lower it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's not your fault, but fix it.
Yeah, for a documentary, I think the most important thing is actually the platform. Because you look at Lauren Southern, I mean, she's made some really good documentaries,
cool.
Borderless.
Yeah,
but
she has.
She uses YouTube or she uses Google as her platform, and she just gets nuked on it.
She does.
So, yeah.
Well, are you professional? I'm saying, if you actually, it needed like basic advice, or are you trying to make money off of this? Or you?
No, there's no money involved at all. It's just literally me wanting to make something on race and like put together. Like, I consider myself, for example, someone who is what's the word? Thought consistent, politically consistent, and as consistent. Sorry.
We're not anti-capitalist. I said like it's okay to make money. You know, like we're even
No,
encouraging.
I'm not doing that though. You asked the question and I'm just answering it.
I mean, you have 6,000 subs on YouTube.
Subs,
Like I
yeah.
didn't check. Are you monetized on YouTube? Do you make money off of your YouTube?
No. I can't say no. If I get a super chat during a live stream, perhaps, but not really.
Oh yeah,
But-
is the threshold
Your
1,000?
program.
After 1,000, you can make money,
I heard that.
or is it
Well,
2?
after 1,000, you can you are eligible to get super chats.
You're
Oh, okay.
eligible to be monetized and make money
Yes.
off your channel in the
Yes.
in a variety of ways that YouTube partners, which include super chats or ads. I think you need 10,000 to have members and the various things, and you don't have to be a for-profit streamer or business person. I mean, some people are like retired or former broadcast journalists that switch to YouTube. This is how they're trying to make their living. And if you're making a documentary, it's a lot of work. If you have an outside source of income that you could do it out of your own compassion or interest, good for you. But like a lot of times, people are broke, they need money, and it's good to be able to make money off of what you're doing.
I suppose I agree. I just want to clarify that I've been calling it a video essay because a documentary I feel like is more than what I've just done, which is interview a couple of people and then I'm going to narrate a couple of things and put some clips in. So I don't think it's going to be, I don't want anyone to think of this as some sort of an amazing epic thing. It's just going to be the best I can do with the capacity of editing that I have and that I understand. And also, Jennifer, what kind of a friend are you? What kind of a girlfriend sisterhood are you? My freaking shirt was down, my boob was showing.
You know what though?
Generous.
The people who are on the panel are actually covering it up, and I couldn't actually see it. I
Shiksa.
wasn't anything if I'd have noticed it, but I legit didn't even. I just saw you were playing with it there. It is
Okay.
it's covered up by Doovovid's face at least.
It's covered now. Yeah.
I'm excited to see this documentary. What do you guys think in the chat? It
Oh
sounds
yeah.
really cool, doesn't it?
Oh, I hope so.
She'll never talk to me again publicly. I lowered it, by the way. You're right. I was about 14.
Yeah, you sound okay now.
I'm so sorry about that.
Was
I
I
was just saying
right?
the Church of
15,
the Church.
14. I feel very
Yeah.
happy. I
Well,
am
you know
so
what?
happy to hear that.
All I have to do is go into Apogee Maestro and turn it. Listen, that's not interesting radio. Anyway, thank you. I don't like calling people by their real names. I'm gonna.
Except
call
for
you-
the other girl, we're all tech geeks here, so we actually do love to talk about that stuff. And Nano's literally into the stuff too.
Entropy.
I was fucking thing. Go ahead, dude.
Entropy. I must repudiate a claim that you made, though. However, my fair maiden, may I?
Oh.
Yes,
What
the
are you gonna-
claim. The claim that you said was that Church of Entropy was the bottom of the barrel. No. Reviler is the
You said
bottom
this.
of the barrel.
We
Oh,
heard
all
this
right.
already.
Then whatever. Keep talking. I'll shut up.
Smoke.
No.
Dude.
Talk. You talk, but
No.
you just repeated yourself. We know you're the bottom of the barrel. It's
I
all good.
repeated myself, even though I was clipping earlier, love. Why do I always make Aussies sound British? Ugh. Anyway.
Because you don't know how to do my accent.
You know, a great movie you should see is Romper Stomper. You don't belong here. Anyway, go ahead.
I've never seen it.
Of course you haven't. You're a cuck. It's all right. Moral humanist cuck. So, at some point, I'll be quiet, but may I talk about nihilism at some point since,
So
you
you're
know,
excited about nihilism. Perhaps you should know I already accept the validity of this position, but it does not make a positive assertion, therefore does not qualify as an information positive statement. Therefore,
what entropy? What are you? A nihilist, an existentialist, an absurdist? I've never heard you clarify this position. I'd like to know what the rest of the panel is too. I'll shut up. Go.
what am I? The gay universal gay lord, obviously.
All right, I won't ask a question again. Sorry. No habla inglés.
I was just joking, but seriously, you said I was a moral humanist. Is that right? In the
Beltrandia is. I don't know what you and her would get along. I feel if her and
someone has told me I would get along with someone, I haven't. It's a
well, you
little-
don't get along with me, and
Yeah,
that's true.
I
but
hate
the
her.
other peop-
I'm not
the
getting
other
along with
people
her at
you
all.
like, she doesn't get along with me either. She's like, after I interview you, can never talk publicly again. I'm like, yeah, I know. So what? So
Gee, I
anyway,
wonder why. I wonder
because I wonder why. Because
how about image management?
Because my people are a cuck joke, and I'm not, but that's okay. But go ahead.
Well, I don't know. You're kind of cucking to your facial hair right now.
What you wanted me to say? Inshallah? Should I say l'chaim for Doovid, or should I say inshallah? I don't know. I'm Sicilian, hon. I ain't Ahmed. But go ahead.
I feel like the best thing would be to like say what each other's things are. We don't know each other well enough to say what each other's ideologies are, but is Doovid a nihilist? I don't think so.
Doovid isn't.
He probably accepts it for the sake of certain arguments whenever he needs to, kind of like I do. Like, I just don't dwell in nihilism because it is absurd to dwell in nihilism.
It's too defeatist.
Why? Why is it absurd to dwell on nihilism, and by
I
what
agree.
kind of?
She's not wrong.
Because nihilism
I'm
only tells you what you shouldn't do. It says you shouldn't associate a subjective meaning to an objective universe. That's what nihilism tells you. It doesn't tell you what subjective meaning you should associate. It doesn't tell you how to live. And my ideology does. So I have really no use for this concept, but I don't reject it on its face.
What is your ideology, ma'am? I've been subscribed to you for a long time. I've watched the shows. What is your ideology, and what are all the panel members' ideologies, please?
Could somebody
Christian. Done.
Yeah, I'm
Well-
a Hasidic Jew with Hindu leanings. Also, I'm not an initiated Freemasonry. I'm not an initiated Freemason, but I believe in the science or system of Freemasonry without subscribing to any specific lodge or oath. But generally, Week in Review, me and Jennifer both have spiritual approaches and Hindu leanings that keeps the show going. Reincarnation is one of the main overlaps of spiritual belief between me and Jennifer, and also a scientific approach to spirituality. And I'm a propagator of a theory called the multiple truth hypothesis. So from that perspective, I could think through another perspective. So nihilism is a major school, and you could look at any major issue and say, how would a nihilist approach this issue? And that might shed insight on the various approaches to going about life. But by no means am I a nihilist. I'm a believer in the soul. I'm a believer in reincarnation. I'm a believer in karma. And generally, I accept the Hebrew prophets as true, and also have a tendency to believe in the Hindu Vedic scripture.
Okay, thank you.
That's very detailed response.
How about the other guy?
Nihilist, Nano?
Yeah, Nano's
Sorry?
a Christian, isn't he?
Are you a nihilist? No, he said he produced a Christian show.
Oh, sorry. My apologies.
No, it's cool. Are you nihilist?
Well, I describe myself as an agnostic atheist.
Whoa.
Me too. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, like I just can't really, with any confidence, say exactly, well, what the origin of the universe. I mean, that's a pretty bold statement. What the origin of the universe is, whether or not everything has a creator, that's pretty bold. I can't say either way.
I can.
You can't say either way whether morals
No.
are definitively objective or not. I'm not asking like the cosmology of the universe, sir. I'm asking like, can you definitively tell me that morals have some kind of edict that makes them as objective as the supposed microphone I'm speaking to you on? What would be your position on that?
Do I believe that there is an objective basis for morality?
Yes, do you?
Yeah.
What is your evidence of that?
For an atheist, it's a good question.
Irrelevant.
Ow!
What is
Ow! Stop it.
Ow. What is your evidence of that, sir? Especially if you do not derive that from a theological concept, what is your evidence?
Well, what I would say to that is, being sentient beings, we have, well, how would I describe this? A threshold of functionality, if you will. We can't function as
shared root of consciousness, right?
I'd have to think about that for a while, but I think it's something along those lines. We can't function as a society if we perform certain behaviors, the way I look at it. We can't have a functioning society on any kind of reliable on a reliable basis. That is how I view morality.
So
It's not.
you're
It's
go ahead.
sorry.
Sorry. No, go ahead, sir. Sorry.
So people kind of lose me on the objective part because it's not subjective and it's not objective either. But people want things to be static. They want them to be one or the other, but I just don't look at it that way.
Yeah,
But
check that shit out. That's a motherfucking base take right there. Why don't you take a minute to actually listen to what he said, bro? And actually live up to your super cool tats and rough, tough guy image.
Are you talking to me? You're being very ad hominem like right now, ma'am.
She clearly has a grudge against
She
you.
hates me because well, I won't say what I said last time. It might have been about some worms like Doovid. But what I like, Doovid's a nice guy. It's too bad the other stuff. But look, no, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to grill a fellow guest on your show. And by the way, I don't like calling people by their first. This is creepy, Jennifer. Yes, that's the name of two of my ex-girlfriends, hon. Okay, so I'll call you.
If that's easier.
Call you who? Perp?
Church. A lot of people have taken.
Yeah. So look. I'm not saying. Look, I'm. All right, let me just show you. If anyone wants to ask me what I am, because I think I'd have beef with all y'all, and I like it. Even a lot of my, well, let's just say pro-white, far-right people in my telegrams and so forth, even they argue with me and take issue with my epistemological and philosophical leanings. But I don't want this to be about me. This is your show, but go ahead. You can ask me if you want. Go ahead.
So far we've got 2 votes for a type of dualism where morality comes from God.
Well, it's not really a sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I wasn't describing what you were saying. I was talking about Dia and Do.
Oh, okay.
Your position is one of, like I said, the base take. And my position, I actually have an article on my blog where I can derive that morality is indeed objective.
Sorry.
And I accept nihilism. I start from the axioms of nihilism, and I still prove it. So
When you're talking about morality, you're talking about a set number of people. So if you're talking about four or five of us here, that's one thing. But if you're talking about 7 billion people, that's a completely different thing.
yeah, morality is relative to the boundary, right? Because
exactly.
I mean,
but is there?
I'm sorry. Otherwise, you can posit otherwise, but I don't think it really has any meaning.
Wait, no, wow. All right.
7 billion people on this planet. They can talk about what they want to happen. They can talk about what is happening, and they can be completely true and honest. But circumstances change, and we know that they're going to change. Might not be for 100 years or 200 years, but eventually we're going to have to leave this planet, and that's going to change the moral landscape.
Then
so
morals. I'm sorry, sir. Morals were never this entrenched, concrete thing to begin with. Then, because if slavery, and I'll be careful of the topics, but let's use slavery. And I'm not just saying one race against. I'm saying all people had slavery: Sub-Saharan Africa, Egyptians, Tunisians, Carthaginians, Achaemenid Empire, Greco-Romans, all of them, Saxons, whatever. So if slavery was wrong, if we lived in the year 1105 BCE or ACE for you Christians, that's BC and AC, or AD, my bad, Anno Domini. Like then that means that either slavery was always wrong or right, or it's completely subjective. I think you're a nice guy.
You realize that there's more than one version of slavery, right? So like if somebody wants to come over and live in my house and make my meal and get the benefit of being in my proximity, is that wrong?
Yeah, I'm asking you, ma'am. Is that wrong?
Technically my servant, aren't they? But there's a respectful, mutual relationship. It's because slavery, quote unquote, is ill-defined that you can't draw the moral line.
Well, what is? I'm gonna get kicked off. It doesn't. I've not been allowed to even state my epistemological, philosophical, nor existential
Go
position.
ahead. Go
You don't
ahead.
have one.
Do it. I want to hear.
I don't have one.
Bio information. You do not have a coherent.
Oh, I don't have. I'm a dummy. I don't read books about this asshole. I don't read books about Uncle A. I'm stupid. I'm sorry.
Reading books doesn't. Anybody?
Go
want-
ahead.
Ma'am, may
I
I,
want to hear Rev
Miss
go,
Church,
but don't
Miss
make
Church-
it long-winded.
No, I'm long-winded, yeah, because Doovid wasn't. No offense, Doovid's
Sure.
no.
His Doovis was long-winded, but it is his show.
Doovid is a classic academic.
Hilarious infotainment.
All right, look, can I? May I? I'm sorry to be the drag queen, degenerate yes girl of the hour, but may I state my epistemological, philosophical, moral, and existential position since y'all have and no one asked me? May I?
Go ahead.
Thanks. Oh, gracias. How gracious. Anyway, so I am a nationalistic nihilist. I am existentialist. I guess you could call me an existentialist, similar to the works of Soren Kierkegaard and so forth, who posited that even if Christianity or Judaism or whatever general base morality, especially that worked later on in Europeanism, if you will, especially like post-Enlightenment, Locke, Voltaire, that even if these things are bollocks or BS, I don't want to curse on the show, that we should believe in them nonetheless. Yeah, that's great. What a great little nuance. What are you joining Chabad the way you are? Shut up, Dia. Anyway, I could talk to her like that because I know it. Look, I am a nihilist. First and foremost, I am a nihilist, meaning entropy. I reject absolute truth. Now, I do not 100% say there can be no absolute truth. So
You asserted a negative.
I
Just to
assert.
clarify, I was going to try to get Dia to join Chabad. She doesn't have.
Of course you were, you worm. Of course you kind always are. But go ahead. Sorry.
Could you fuck
You
off?
should go to synagogue for Sabbath.
What's
And I was like, you're in Australia, and it's not going to be more than a few hours away till there's a Chabad. So it is a fact that I was going to recommend that Dia contact Chabad.
Dude, please explain to Dia, Miss Dia, what Chabad is, because she's not as well versed on Judaism or the Torah or the Talmud or Tanakh as some of us. Go ahead.
To leave, okay?
not as well versed as you are, Rev. Now.
You need
It's an international
go
group
right
of
now.
rabbis. It's a Jewish sect that have set up synagogues
sect?
all over the world.
Okay.
It's a sect. It was a town in Russia that after the war was destroyed and the Jews were displaced and ended up in Brooklyn, tens of thousands.
In
And
Brooklyn?
in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, okay.
And the rabbi who was descendant to the rabbi who had led these Jews in Russia and now was in Brooklyn came up with the idea to send these people that had after the war ended up in Brooklyn from Europe all over the world to open up synagogues. So this was already like 40 years ago. So at this point, there's I believe over 4,000 synagogues in the world. So if you're in Australia, there's probably as many. I mean, it's not like God forbid like McDonald's or something, but there's probably like 20 Chabads, at least 20 Chabads. And so it's almost impossible that you would be more than a few hours away from a Chabad synagogue. I mean, there's a history of who this group is, why they went all over the world opening up synagogues. But if you want to learn more about Judaism, go to your local synagogue. And in most likelihood, your local synagogue is going to be Chabad. But no, we didn't get that. We didn't get that far yet. We just talked about Jews and politics. I didn't get Dia to synagogue yet.
No, okay, Doovid, please stipulate.
I haven't even got Jennifer to synagogue yet. We've been doing a weekly review for 2 years, and I haven't even got Jennifer to synagogue.
I'm a diehard.
It's not exactly a local thing. This thing is not just going to be exactly a local geometrical. It's not just going to be an integral of some density, as if I were measuring the total energy of this region. I just integrate the stress energy tensor or something like that. But there is a sort of approximate factorization that's due to the fact that the contributions coming from very different energy scales, or if you prefer, inverse length scales, do more or less factorize. So the first assumption I want to make is that contributions to S from scales that are very different from each other factorize, meaning that they add up independently. So in particular, that would mean that, I have two scales in this problem. I have a sort of IR length scale, which is associated with some IR attributes of this region. For example, if this were a disk, then it would be the radius of the disk. On the other hand, if it was a more complicated and wiggly geometry, it would just be at whatever scale I have to zoom into where this starts becoming smooth. So there's an IR scale, and there's a, which I guess I'll put at the bottom here, and there's a UV scale. So the IR scale is cut off by the region itself, by LIR. And the UV scale is cut off by my UV regulator, whatever that is. Okay? So the important point now is I need to make some assumptions about the UV and the IR physics. So what one tells me is that this is going to end up being an integral.
Writers or had run in with Jennifer, but it's interesting, Karma, that he referred me to you, Dia.
Yeah, you've been lovely.
Obviously, that's not the kind of behavior, God forbid, pointing a gun at me. That, in the U.S., he would probably get visited by the. If that was live, it depends. Depends where, but yeah, that could be criminally prosecuted in the U.S. depending on where he's at. There's a lot of guns in the U.S. also, so that's the current tension in the streets. People are ready to kill each other. It's not surprising to me. God forbid, the coronavirus. It's not surprising to me that people disagree about society so much that we're ready to kill each other.
Which I hate. I hate that attitude, but I genuinely think he was well behaved for him. So I think.
Maybe for him, this is what I do.
For him,
so it's not surprising to me. But generally, no.
But he didn't boss Jennifer around. I didn't see that.
Well, you kind of. I was actually talking about you.
I was bossing you around.
Still are. He wasn't misbehaving. Okay, great.
Oh, I'm just sharing an opinion. I'm not boss. I'm not telling you what to do behind the scenes.
You seem to share the opinion more than once, though. Funny that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't know.
Women have their own choice in men. And I'm not a hater, saying you probably wouldn't find me and Reviler hanging out in, on the streets. But
it's from your country.
I'm willing to talk to people about different. It's interesting, Karma, that he's the one who recommended you interview me, and that's why I told you I'm a libertarian. I'm from the rare Jew that I don't mind talking to these guys.
I think that's a good thing. That's a good thing that you're so open.
But you see, and I don't know anything about the guy, but God forbid, violence is real. I was going to show some stuff on coronavirus. Me and Jennifer, at the end of the day, are more scientists and spiritualists. But this is the calm before the storm in America in coronavirus. It looks like it's going to be huge amounts of death from disease. And Dia, I don't know the level of violence or conflict that you're used to, or your background of university, or what type of people you hang out with. You're saying certainly on the short and narrow path of private schools, synagogue, university, I don't really bump into too many people like Reviler. And obviously I live in a majority black area. There's basically no one like Reviler in my area because it's majority black. And you're saying black nationalists, it's I don't have any problem running into black nationalists. Every street corner, every Starbucks, there's black nationalists. But there's a certain element also to geographic reality, and also Jennifer. I don't know her history with this character. Obviously she knows him. He knows.
Oh, you know what happened? I think it was a week in review and it was super long and you got tired and then he was begging to come on for like half an hour and I was like, fine. And then I ended up having to take the entire stream down because he just was saying stuff that was going to get the channel reported. You know?
You can't get away with doing that on YouTube. On your channel, it's too risky. I mean, you can't really get away with doing that in real life. I'm saying whether he's LARPing a character or like, saying like, does Doooovid have to worry like, another hater? There's another guy who wants to kill me. God forbid, another dude wants to kill me. And like I was like on Luke Ford, and I think Luke Ford has a gun. This African American convert, he's a chemist. He has a degree in chemical engineering. He knows how to read Hebrew, but he converted to Judaism and now he carries a gun. So it's saying like we're Jews, like we know this resentment towards us exists, and it's not surprising. I mean, it's surprising to a lot of Jews who've been protected from this type stuff and don't know about it. But if you haven't been protected from this type stuff, like we have said, like and like relatively, like I mean, I don't think that's such a big deal. It's not good for streaming. You're not going to get any. I mean, if you're trying to do shock streaming or just bring to light people, but like no, I mean, me and Jennifer aren't shock jocks. We're scientists and spiritual people.
You're both very smart, yeah.
Well,
is that more your field? Like, are you kind of like a shock jock, or you're interested in? I mean, Luke Ford also, and I stream with him, is from Australia, is interested in reporting on things that like the underworlds. I mean, God forbid, he reported on pornography, he reported on white nationalism, reports on Antifa, and the various things that interest him. Is do you report on more mainstream stuff, or you have an interest in like fringe nationalistic movements?
Are you asking me specifically?
Yeah, I'm saying like you didn't seem to mind this guy Reviler too much, but like I'm guessing that I mean, you're saying, is he like, would you picture if he went to a local corner
sometimes
bar? Is he the type of guy that you would bump into at a corner bar?
No, never. I don't go near people like that. But in the online world is a different world, right? So like nothing is exactly as it would be in IRL, right? And so I stumbled upon him on Telegram, and one day I had him on my channel to discuss nihilism. And because I'm a Christian, I believe in Jesus, and I
and that's just the nature of reality.
Versions of the first part of what you said. We can talk about the second part, which is, is the universe a quantum computer already? Does it just work that way? And this is very interesting because there was a famous physicist named John
that
Wheeler.
People disagree, and that's obviously completely allowed. I don't know. Yeah, no, I would never hang out with him in real life, no. But I don't hate the guy. Maybe I'm more tolerant than most. I don't know.
Well, he didn't really go on long enough for me to understand what he believes.
Everyone's talking at the same time.
Yeah, I don't think Jennifer's so happy with the direction the show went. But I'm not sure.
Oh no, I'm cool. I'm cool with it now that he's been ejected. We should definitely just continue on going. It's just I'm familiar with the guy. He always has the same shtick. It's like acting. It gets tiresome because I don't really get the sense he's coming in good faith.
Yeah, I'm from the big city, and like I promoted parties in New York. I'm in Detroit, and so like no, Reviler is like the common guy at the bar in the corner.
That's kind of true. He's
like
Reviler
is the kind of guy I'm selling tickets and beer to, and like probably secretly wants to kill me, but at the end of the day comes to my party, buys beer, and pays for the ticket, even though one day he's like, I'm going to kill that Jew, God forbid. But most days just pays his buys his beer and pays his ticket, and might harbor those thoughts. And also, like, okay, in Detroit, there's a lot of people in that are in and out of prison. So, like, if you're in New York at parties in your local street corner past midnight, as much as 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 of those people are probably ex-felons that were in prison, possibly for some pretty hefty crimes, like that could include, God forbid, rape, battery, armed robbery. And so, like, I don't know about Australia, but it's saying, like, yes, if you're a woman and you go to a bar in Manhattan at midnight, you're going to meet guys like Reviler. You're not going to meet guys like Doooovid. And Reviler is probably more normal than Doooovid. There's a lot more guys like Reviler than there are like Doooovid.
Yikes.
No, they're not that common here in this country. I don't really know anyone like Reviler in Australia. Not a single person.
Well, I mean, I don't know anything about if he's from Australia or anything, but
he's American. He lives in America.
I mean, everyone's a unique character.
Of course.
But it's saying, like, no, I mean, that's I mean, the statistics. I'm more intellectual, academic. You could even put numbers on it, to say the number of people like Reviler. So if you just mean, God forbid, kind of like white angst people that may have had a rough past or wrestle with violence or various ideas that get drunk at bars and occasionally get in fights and do stupid things and like hitting on women. Like, yeah, that's 1 out of 3 dudes.
Oh.
Even owning guns, saying like, and owning guns, like, yeah, that's like 1 out of 5 dudes here in America.
Yeah, fair enough.
Is that not what you see? Like, Nano's an introvert. He likes technology and talking about ideas. And, I mean, do you go? I mean, now there's COVID-19. Like, you can't go to a bar if you wanted to. But guys like Reviler probably do better at bars. They might even, God forbid, do better with the women than guys like me and Nano.
I mean, I hang out with all sorts of people. To be completely honest, I don't really know what you mean by guys like Reviler. Like, I guess that kind of categorize. He has tattoos, or he's more extroverted. He's got a weapon.
And you know how some
women, right? Like he knows Jennifer and Rhea. Like, we're just incels. Like Reviler. Like he's like all ready to pounce on both, God forbid, Jennifer and Rhea.
Well, I got a friend who contacted me a little while ago who is extroverted, and everything we did, we had to be around other people that we didn't know. And that really just irked me. So yeah, I guess in that sense, that's how you're speaking about him, right? Categorizing him as an extrovert.
Yeah, I mean, like a high testosterone man that's ready to go for the girl, get in a fight, suffer the consequence, not really, you could talk a few ideas, like, I'm saying it wasn't necessarily dumb, but like at the end of the day, like, you're like, I don't call him like an alpha, like from my perspective, maybe call him alpha because I don't look up to alphas. So say like, yeah, that's just a alpha type personality. That's why I'm happy to consider myself a beta, because you say like, like, no, I mean, that's basically what an alpha is. Don't leadership is generally bad. We're libertarians. Like I'm not looking for great leadership. To me, all leadership is bad, and even a better form of Reviler is still going to be some form of that, at least from a libertarian perspective. But also at the other end, introverts, rarely get the girl, rarely get the gusto. Just sit there on the sideline.
Are you married? Do you have kids?
Guys like Reviler. Well, I was saying it's a fact. Like introverts just sit on the sideline. Well, like Reviler.
Trying to put your dick in things. It's a lifestyle choice. Doesn't mean you can't get a wife.
Do you
well, I
have a
mean,
wife? Do you have a wife, Doovid? Do you have kids?
no, unfortunately, I'm single. You know, I don't know about
Oh,
Nan.
your time will come.
Well,
Some lovely lady will
amen.
want you.
Appreciate the encouragement.
I saw in the chat you said you had to make lunch, so
I do, yeah.
you want to have some last words before we say goodbye? And thanks a lot for joining. And did you
Well, I'm sorry that you felt like I was trying to overtake. That was not my intention. So I hope you know that.
I already forgot about it. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
So,
cool.
Do we have a link for your work, or how does?
What's his name? Doovid has my Twitter page and my Twitter channel. My YouTube channel is Dia. Basically what you see in the chats, that name there is my YouTube channel. So if you just write that down, then people can sub or not sub or watch or not watch, whatever. But yeah, and that's pretty much it. Sorry guys, it's lunchtime and I'm hungry and I haven't eaten, and thank you for having me, and yeah, that's
Thanks for coming
it.
on. Good luck with your documentary. See you later.
Thank you. See you later.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. Thanks a lot.
No worries.
Down in Australia.
And I make great first impressions, don't I?
Well, I mean, it's interesting, Karma, that I don't know if Reviler comes to you through me, like maybe he saw me on like Heel Turn or something and came to your channel through me, or maybe you know him and somehow you know, he's here in the US and he's listening to Dia, and she's talking like she wants to speak to people and talk to a Jew, so Reviler tells him Doovid, and you know, it's just interesting karma. I don't know anything about Reviler, the origins of his beliefs or his opinions. Maybe like I guess he's been here before. Jennifer remembers him. I don't know. You know, like ironic. I don't know what to say.
You through it, and then I already taken the video down. There's no way you could have seen it, unless you were listening to Week in Review after going to bed after Week in Review, which I don't see you doing somehow. God forbid. Oh, Half Delition says Doovid is his leader. Nice.
Yeah, I don't know what the thing is like a James. I mean, we've had like, I mean, he's not like STFU James, but like he is kind of like STFU James.
Hey, but a Boober Bing pizza. Da 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 da.
One thing I noticed, like I watch a lot of different streams, and one thing I notice is there's people who just listen. They just lurk, as it were. They just listen, and then they kind of show up out of the blue one day on a call-in show, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is so and so," and you've never heard of them before, but they've been listening for like 4 years.
So let me do a quick screen share and show some of these things, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do with the rest of Week in Review, because I mean, I wanted to demonstrate how serious this COVID-19 thing is getting, even with elections. Are you here in America, Nano?
I live in Canada.
Okay, so it may not be such a big deal. I've showed this link before in my stream. Here's the FT, Financial Times graph, and you could see that the number of daily deaths now is the highest it's ever been. At the beginning, it had reached a peak of 6,825, and now it's 7,842. And you could also see, you know, kind of the trend where it started in Europe and then to the U.S. and then to South America, where now over half of the deaths are back in Europe, and South America is on the decline. And if you look here in the U.S., this is just from the New York Times graphics, but you see the daily cases were, you know, when we first started, like the first show, there were just a few. We closed down Michigan for just a few cases. Few people were in the hospital, but exponential growth. Within a few weeks, the hospitals were overloaded. And the U.S. never went fully back down, 20,000 average cases, even during the low point of the summer. August, there was a case surge, but there wasn't that much death and hospitalization. And now that it's November, flu season starting, and, you know, coronavirus season is starting. It's getting colder. The virus does better in the cold, and the sunlight what was bad for the virus, and people are indoors and sniffling noses, And the case count now in the U.S. is hovering at about over it was over like 180,000 the other day. It's averaging like 150,000. Deaths is starting to be over 1,000. And if you're looking in 2-3 weeks, if the death rate is lower, but just looking at the 150,000 case rate, it could be that in 3 weeks it's going to be 5,000 deaths a day. And just to see how serious this is, if you look at the charts in exponential growth, God forbid, these charts could go straight up, but this is where cases are going up. And then also, if you look at where deaths are increasing, and you look where I am, Michigan, the original spike where 3,000-4,000 people died, we're spiking again, and because deaths lag cases by like 3 weeks, it's possible that we're going to hit higher highs, God forbid, on deaths, and God forbid, just say that. I'll say God forbid. So take coronavirus seriously. I wanted to mention that because Michigan's going back down to lockdown, and unfortunately, you're not going to see it in the news now because deaths and sickness lag cases a few weeks, but the hospitals are starting to fill up, and God forbid, you could see unprecedented amount of death coming up. And I showed Jennifer this article, this new Amazon series, The Queen's Gambit, about it's actually a author, Bevis, who had written The Color of Money and The Hustler, and I'd like those movies, The Pool Shark, Paul Newman and Jackie Gleason, George C. Scott in The Hustler, but he had written a book about this orphan girl who becomes world champion at chess, and it's fictional, but Amazon did a series on it, 7-hour series, and they got like famous actors that didn't know how to play chess, and everyone's giving it rave reviews, and all the chess players are saying it's great. But I'm not exactly sure. They had like generally, it's like I'm a geek, I'm a nerd, I'm not cool. I don't need to have cool people play me to make it look like being a nerd to be cool. So this, like the review kind of with like Dia and people like Reviler, maybe this article kind of sums up. The Queen's Gambit sucks, and anyone enjoying it is lying to themselves.
Yeah, this is the first I've heard of it.
And she says, like, I'm sorry to say it, I've been waiting to scream it out from my window every night, and now defunct all the reviews on social media, people saying it's outstanding, it's certified fresh on Rotten Tomato, it's life-changing, but it's not. It's a chess show where the sexy bad boy character dresses like Crocodile Dundee, and the main character has the same haircut the entire series. Name one person who has the same haircut as when they were 8 years old. You can't, because they don't. Let me break it down for you. Here are all the reasons why the nightmare show you've been playing on my mind like an imaginary chessboard on the ceiling for the past half a week. It's literally about chess. I don't play chess or understand it, nor do I care to understand it. This means all of the chess scenes mean as much to me as two people moving tiny blocks of wood around on a mini black and white dance floor, except it's not a dance floor, it's a effing chessboard, and it's boring. Am I supposed to feel something when the king goes to d3 or something? Because I don't. Honestly, I don't have much better time if the whole series were people playing the Death Trap life-size chess from Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and people actually died every time they lost. Would cut some of the more boring characters too. No character is compelling. Trying to it goes on and on, the critique of it, but I largely agree with the critique, and that's why I said, like, Dia, guys like Reviler have they're extrovert, they're outgoing personalities, saying like Queen's Gambit does have some interesting aspects. I'm glad they made the movie. I'm glad people are thinking about chess and some of the visions or things that there are good points to it. Besides like the general, it's like, saying like you have to have a non-chess player play a chess player because, like you couldn't have a nerd. No one would watch a movie if you actually had a nerd play a nerd. But Doooovid has generally accepted these things, and even religiously, saying that it's even the opposite. Fame and beauty are charades and fake things, and but I thought I'd give that review, and I thought it was fitting. Like Ricardo was here in the chat too, in the Dia episode, and like me and Jennifer, intellectuals, and care about issues that most people don't care about. And we could say from an intellectual level, because we want to limit suffering, and other people presumably would benefit from limiting their own suffering, that they would benefit from our ideas. But at the end of the day, human nature is human nature. And that's why Doooovid is not surprised. My theories predict that people won't care about my theories even if they're true.
Yeah, because the cognitive dissonance, right? They'll only conform to its protocols by virtue of some other motivation, such as losing face if they can't.
Well, even on previous, the natural reaction of the materialistic person is to kill the sage. And the sage loses the battle because the sage, in essence, does not belong in the material realm. So if there's a fight between the sinner and the sage is protecting righteousness, the sinner will win many times because the material realm, without divine protection from the spiritual realm, actually favors the sinner.
So you're speaking in analogies. What defines the sage? What are you speaking about in the sage?
Well, the sage is the person who is protecting the higher level purpose of creation, the revealed divine wisdom for how humans could become enlightened and live a better life. As where the sinner is representing the person who's saying, forget all that, not necessarily nihilism, but say, drink and marry and be fun, for tomorrow we die. And in a certain realm, from the material realm perspective, that the sinner has better footing than the sage. So if it came down between a battle between the sinner and the sage loses, that makes sense because the sage doesn't really belong in the material realm. You're saying that I'm a sage, God forbid, me and Jennifer are at least aspiring to be sages, because we recognize that our soul is the true purveyor of our identity, and the material realm is a lesser reality, or however words you want to use to describe the lesser essence of the material realm to the spiritual realm, than the sinner who might reject the spiritual realm in totality. So if it's of a defense where me and Jennifer, from a spiritual perspective, are saying the material realm should function in this way, and the sinner is saying, no, the material realm should function in this way, the sage doesn't always win the battle. In fact, the sage many times loses the battle, and sometimes suffering, or God forbid, the Jesus principle of suffering on behalf of humanity is the expected path of the sage. So like, if a reviler hates me, it doesn't surprise me that reviler hates me. In fact, my equations predicted that reviler would hate me. In fact, my equations maybe even predicted that reviler might even want to kill me.
Well, I guess it depends on what you want to accomplish.
Well, it doesn't matter if you want to accomplish. Same, the equations predicted, that's my karma. There's two different things. I might be trying to accomplish something, and then there's just factually, and it's only because I'm trying to accomplish something. And if I hadn't been trying to accomplish something, then the force of reviler wouldn't have been brought up against me, or it could have karmatically been ordained that reviler was going to be brought up against me, even if I wasn't trying to accomplish anything.
Yeah,
I mean, it's more likely that he's brought up against me because I'm a force trying to accomplish something, and he's a force trying to stop what I'm trying to accomplish, or to, like I was speaking to Dia about like Jews and immigration and multiculturalism. If it's just simple like that, like, Doooovid's trying to increase multiculturalism and immigration in his society, therefore I'm his enemy that he will defeat. At least there's a logic to it. It makes sense from a group conflict level that there's at least a base logic to that.
Right.
And even from a material realm, even if, let's say, objectively from the moral sense, Doooovid will die a martyr and go to heaven, but from the material realm, it could be ordained that that Doovid will lose the battle to Reviler fighting on the right side, or it could be ordained that Doovid will win the battle against Reviler, or maybe Reviler will repent, or I mean, there's a whole bunch of possible scenarios or outcomes that could come from this, and even from a Doovidian perspective, it's mostly uncertainty, and make wise decisions within the uncertainty is really the best we could do.
Well, on entertainment, so you just had that chess show. I've never even heard of it. What was its name? I already forgot.
Queen's Gambit is one of the most popular shows in the world now, made by Amazon and Netflix. 7-hour mini documentary based on a book by Bevis called The Queen's Gambit, about a woman orphan who rises to become world champion at chess. And the author of the book is the same author of The Color of Money and The Hustler, the pool movies, if anyone has heard of those.
I've never heard of it.
But if you're an Amazon Prime member, you could watch it for free. So if it's on Netflix, you have to be a member. But if you I didn't watch it. I'm not much into drama or fiction in general, but I checked just to see. And because I have Amazon Prime, I order my groceries from Amazon. I could watch the movie on Amazon for free.
I see. Yeah, I just brought it back up because I had no idea that show even existed. And I find it really curious that they have in that article, the Rotten Tomatoes rating, like that means anything. Because to me, when I hear that, I just think a bunch of people whose opinions really don't matter think that this is great. In fact,
yeah, that's what I was noting. That
Sorry?
I'm not surprised that you never heard of this. And I'm not, like the New York Times and all the reviews are saying it's the best show ever. And, this person you're writing the paper is like, what the hell, it sucked. Like, I can't believe that everyone's saying it's the best thing ever. And Doovid is saying no one else has even heard of it.
I'm not making it up. I've literally never heard of it. And if I had seen that article and seen that Rotten Tomatoes rates it, whatever, it's fresh, I would just assume that it's crap. To be completely honest. I mean, that's how screwed up our entertainment industry is. And our media.
Yeah, and that it's made by Amazon. But I mean, it's a direction, because generally, if you ascribe to Freemasonry, these are Masonic plays. From a conspiracy, it's programming, but from a factual Masonic science of society, cultural anthropology, people need to be trained how to act, and the historic Greek plays or dramas or however they did it now has morphed into plays in Hollywood. And there's various schools, and they attempt to program societies. Obviously, Amazon, Hollywood, various people, and the goal is largely to create a narrative that will create a structure for people to live society and interact in a certain way. And so if you're a cultural anthropologist, and what Hollywood's trying to do. I don't like movies. I couldn't even watch something to get into the storyline. I don't have a personality to even find fiction interesting, but there's a lot more. So there's a lot more people like Reviler than Doovid. But your average person does like stories, and your average person does like movies, and your average person needs training. I was joking to Jennifer that she needed Seinfeld's training for how to interact with people in an urban area. That's why people watch sitcoms and television. Is in America, they all have a common American dream. Like I was saying, Roseanne. At the end of the day, despite the struggles that people face, everybody loves each other, and somehow gets by. And that's basically the theme in all sitcoms, that they teach people how to get along through the basic struggles that the average person in society is going through. And you have a drama, a fictional tale that's supposed to be popular about some orphan girl that raises to become chess champion, kind of like a fantasy. and the media is pushing it like it's the best thing ever. It's unclear. Like, I mean, to me, it's a sign of the degenerate times we live in. The programming, and even in the movie, I think the girl's promiscuous. So saying, I mean, they're programming promiscuity, and they're doing it under the false illusions of female empowerment. I mean, generally, that's the critique of Islam on the West, is that, God forbid, they're going to turn your daughter into a whore. They're going to claim enlightenment and the liberation for your females, but at the end of the day, all they're going to do is turn her into a whore and you know, wash her, use her up, and discard her. And that's somewhat what Hollywood is probably doing with Queen's Gambit, is saying, like, look, even an orphan girl could become the smartest person in the world. You know, well, meanwhile, it's basically a bunch of pervs trying to trick women into promiscuity and using movie, you know, to convince women to be more promiscuous. I mean, there's some benefits to it.
Hollywood.
Well, I mean,
Jennifer's
this is so blatant that it's not even. Like, I mean, the olden days where there was, you know, like at this point, it's just like a given, and it's a sign of the degeneracy of the time, that normalcy. You know, what even is normalcy today, and
I think it's normalcy.
Jennifer's in Toronto, right?
I was in Ottawa, but I've moved away.
Oh, okay.
I was never living in Toronto, but I've been to Toronto a bunch of times.
Yeah, I live in Saskatoon, and it's not a large city, but I was just wondering why you said that she understands urban culture.
Who?
Jennifer.
Well, I said she doesn't understand urban culture.
I had to learn from Seinfeld, is what he's saying. And then I said, what's the deal with Hollywood? Because I was doing the Seinfeld impression.
It means, like, if you grew up in Manhattan, you know that there's 50,000 people in Manhattan like Reviler. Like, you don't have any illusions about that. You know that you have to deal with these people, and to be successful, you have to, you know, get the guy to buy the ticket and buy his beer and not kill you. And like, you know, saying that's what it takes to be successful in Manhattan. And you know, whatever the case is, like, you know, Seinfeld or you know, Jews, quintessential urban, you know, successful cosmopolitan nature of dealing with that situation. Sitcoms are made to teach you. Like, if, you know, you're a country girl with a high IQ and you want to go to university and you want to work in the big city, and you don't know what the office is going to be like, how to talk to people, how to interact. So you learn from some of the most successful rhetoricians, and you know, that's Seinfeld.
So I just go into a job interview and I'm just channeling the sign. And
well, you got to learn more than just Seinfeld, but like at the end of the day, you're not necessarily going to put on your resume that you watched every season of Seinfeld, but to a certain extent, like, yeah, that goes on your resume. You learned a human interaction, you know, all via, you know, Rabbi Seinfeld, Guru Seinfeld.
Okay, you don't have to keep listing analogies like that.
Well, I mean, you said you're cultural anthropology. I mean, you don't agree with the assessment of like
anthropologist. I said he was a cultural anthropologist. He might describe himself more as a pundit, although I'm not really sure. But go ahead, Nano.
Oh, you're speaking about me. I thought you were speaking about each other.
Well, I mean, Seinfeld's a cultural anthropologist, basically. But I mean, cultural anthropology, usually you're thinking about like visiting Africa or Aboriginals. But you're saying, like, no, I do cultural anthropology in Manhattan.
I didn't use the Seinfeld archetype. I used Optimus Prime from Transformers, Bob from Reboot, Julian from Trailer Park Boys, and then I did the Michael Weston update when I found the Chauffeur Notice. But Seinfeld is definitely, he's something, isn't he?
I mean, things get dated quickly. I mean, like Shakespeare. I mean, Seinfeld's not Shakespeare. I mean, he might be good, but it's like he probably is going to get dated.
I just feel like Shakespeare's not really all that relevant to the modern day. Like, who's getting inspired by Shakespeare these days? a lot of
people
shows got
phrase
inspired by
their
Seinfeld.
words. So eventually, when you try to reach as many people as possible, and you try to craft your words, and you say the influence on how people express themselves and choose words, especially in the English language, will still be more influenced by Shakespeare than Seinfeld. And Seinfeld's legacy, certainly is not going to last as long as Shakespeare. I doubt, even more than decades. Maybe a historian 100 years from now will know and watch the recorded episodes of Seinfeld to studying entertainment of the early of the late 20th century. No, I don't think they're going to be. But there might be some value, and the value of what Seinfeld's teaching is the type thing that changes very quickly because he's not giving this kind of biblical life lessons that are applicable every generation, Shakespeare to some extent. Seinfeld is giving an explanation of the current urban environment that's very confusing to people, and that confusing urban environment that Seinfeld was able to make sense out of and and deliver that in an entertaining and useful way to the masses may not be relevant to decades or even useful to people. That like a Jennifer trying to go to the city and be successful and was able to watch Seinfeld and then wing it interacting with her colleagues, that 30 years from now watching Seinfeld won't help.
I don't know. I think it's going to be quite clear. I don't think that urban culture is going to have really much of any value moving forward.
Well, at the very least, the cultural divide between urban and rural will come to light whether people want it to or not, I think.
Yeah, there's going to be a bridge, but it's not. Yeah, it'll be something to study in terms of value, but
Ricardo in the chat asking about SpaceX, the launch today. We're supposed to be science geeks here.
There was a manned launch, from what I know. When I saw SpaceX launch, I just assumed it was more Starlink satellites, but no, it was a manned launch today.
Yeah, I wasn't following it, so I don't have any information on that.
And I don't even know what it was for. I'm assuming the International Space Station. I guess I could look it up.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, I'll look it up or whatever, but so I guess what happened here, Jennifer? I guess we had interesting guest ons. I guess Aiken didn't show up. Nano was interesting. Dia showed up, and then Reviler. So I'm not sure if there was anything special that I wanted to cover. Was there anything special you wanted to cover? What do you want to do? We had a pretty good viewership. Should I take a break? You want time alone with Nano, or is there stuff you wanted to cover? Do you want to call it a short? I mean, we've already been on for 2 hours, or do you want to bring on? Is there anyone else that wants to come on?
I don't think so.
Any prep that we should do for Dutton on?
Yeah, we should definitely prep for Dutton. So maybe take a quick break, and I can either chat or I can play a video that had an interesting clip.
Well, maybe let me show the Dutton stuff before I take some of my medicine, because Dutton
blazed.
Well, I'm saying Dutton is actually. I mean, he's even more than JF. I'm saying he's got legitimate credentials. I'm going to just show on the screen share. I'm saying, I mean, Dutton even
Yeah, International Space Station.
So I shared it, but I'm saying even Ed Dutton, anthropologist. I'm saying Nano is just a non-person saying anthropologist. Ed Dutton, anthropologist. Wikipedia. he's got his own theories, controversial. He's now Richard Spencer's streaming partner. He's his YouTube channel is Dia 6,000 subscribers. I was saying Dia's bigger than us, but at Dutton 47,000 subscribers. His videos usually get over 10,000 views, sometimes in the tens of thousands. And on an academic level, academic articles, 112. Dutton is an author, co-author on 112 academic articles and book reviews. A lot of those on, in magazines and various things. You got 68 book reviews, and he's written 14 books. So yeah, I'm excited to speak with Dutton, and there's a lot of overlap. In he's one of the main guys on the internet circuit putting out anthropological explanations for why people do things. And Seinfeld was just funny, but I'm saying Dutton is really a better version of Seinfeld. Like Seinfeld's, you ever wonder why? But I'm saying like Dutton, actually does numbers and studies. So like Seinfeld says, you ever notice? You ever wonder? And then Dutton is like, yes, I have, and I did a study and wrote an article on it.
Can you do me a favor and send Nicholas Petrus links? My internet's not working, but he might be able to come
on. Okay, so Nick, I'm gonna Facebook you the hangout. So yeah, so I'm taking Dutton seriously. It's going to be a daytime show, and unless Professor Dutton objects, Jennifer will be on also. He hasn't messaged me back, but unless he objects, which I highly doubt he does, Jennifer will be on also. And I've watched on his channel. He's got this long series with other professors, 40-hour videos with PowerPoints on IQ and these various studies of correlating behavior. And I love his research, and I disagree because I don't know if he's a nihilist. Ask him, because I'm a dualist. And but his research is very relevant to me and Jennifer's research on the hard problem of consciousness. We're more focusing on a quantum level, scientific level, actual mechanism to explain the mechanisms of consciousness, as where Dutton is doing meta-analysis at the more behavioral level. But at some point, me and Jennifer's theories would have to explain why the meta-analysis that Dutton conducts, if it's true, is true from a quantum level, that why on the quantum level that it produces the effects in the way that Dutton in his studies have pointed out. So if that, maybe I'll take some medicine and a break. Nick has the link from Facebook.
Oh, it's my bad. He wrote months, not minutes. I thought he said he was going to have it set up ready in a few minutes, but he was saying a few months. I just misread it on the screen.
Okay.
So, pattern recognition.
Yeah, we got pretty good viewership, so I might as well keep it going. So I'll just let you and Nano enjoy chat. So blessings. Be back.
So,
all right.
I got a question for just random everyone. Basically, is how should I approach this Ed Dutton character? I don't know if you know who that is.
No, I don't. He's associated with Richard Spencer.
I think they do streaming together, yeah.
So what do you make of Richard Spencer endorsing Joe Biden?
I just didn't want to think about it. It's just there's a certain point where it's I can't relate to it.
No, I'm honestly I'm asking because I don't understand.
I don't even want to waste the brain cells to try to figure out this LARP that people want to be, edgy and whatever. It's you can't just be edgy as a thing. Edginess is tangential Because if you try to make your whole image about being edgy, I don't really think that that produces a consistent.
Yeah, I agree.
There's something about it that becomes I don't know. I don't know how to put it into words because, like, I always want to encourage people to create content. Obviously, I just struggle to. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the guy to say what he's trying to accomplish, but I would like to know. Or you just think he's trying to be edgy?
Well, that is the conclusion one must reach at a certain point, isn't it?
I don't know these days.
Perhaps it's just the fact that Luke Ford played that leaked audio recording from Milo all those times that it made an impression on me.
Leaked audio?
Yeah. Of him basically going mad.
Oh, yeah. Man, that feels like an eternity ago.
It's not, though. It's not. It's like... How long ago? It's because when you have a quantum state transition, like when you learn something new that's quantum state transition, like there's a temporal compression factor for your prior memories. So the things that's more recent seem, I don't know. It's in like what your mind stores as information. So there's a lot of information. There's like a time compression factor or something.
I think of it as a quickening.
Yeah, quickening. That's the right word.
I got that word from Alex Jones, but I had the idea in my head for quite a while. You learn more things in a day over a period of days, and it feels like a longer period of time than it really is. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay,
I just trying to think of what's the best metaphor for that. Is like if you're 5, then your whole lifetime is 5 years. The time seems to pass us.
Yeah, that's why it feels like an eternity. You don't know anything. You have no frame of reference, and every piece of information you learn is new, and you don't really understand it. Time seems to pass much slower.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the time, the period of time between 9/11 and 2011, that felt like an eternity for me.
That's hard to describe. I don't know if I could give a description of that. All I know is that there's been something that's been different since the Trump thing. And to see it all come together is kind of mind-boggling. How things can stay the same for so long and then just switch. And it feels completely inevitable in retrospect. Like you can't really relate to who you were before you acquired all this knowledge because the knowledge has become a part of you.
No, not really. I understand the why, but the how, that's another thing.
Yeah, so the audience are saying that there's background noise. Okay, I'll just play a video. Just tell me if the background noise is still there when I play this video.
Make it to be
well, I just think
true.
it's denoising.
So,
or that's what I hear anyway.
Point, if I look at this.
Yeah, I can't hear anything, so I just wanted to play.
Exactly
I just wanted to isolate the source of the
because it's not exactly
of the hissing. Whether I need to restart the computer or if I need to
exactly a local
just restart the Hangout.
It's not just going to be an integral of some density, as if I were measuring the total energy of this region. I just integrate the stress energy tensor or something like that. But there is a sort of approximate.
It's only when you talk, actually.
That's due to the fact that the contributions coming from very different energy scales, or if you prefer, inverse length scales, do.
Okay, it's because my microphone switched.
So the first assumption
Sorry
I want to make is.
I'm sorry. I've been speaking into my stupid computer microphone this whole time. My bad.
I thought there was something off. I'm just so used to people having technical issues that I just...
Oh, it was that fucking guy. He just threw me off my focus because then I had to kick him off the show, and then I didn't realize that my microphone disconnected somehow.
So you guys don't really talk about politics, really?
We talk about like meta-analysis, so we might invoke political happenings in order to garner support for a particular hypothesis. So we end up talking, like sometimes we'll go into politics for super deep for a while because the argument is something that necessitates that. And I guess we kind of go along with whatever the people say. So if there's specific questions in the chat, I'll answer them, but I wouldn't say I'm overly interested in politics, no. But political theories, yes, definitely.
Sorry, I'm just trying to multitask at the moment.
So yeah, are you thinking about going back to streaming?
I was until how would I put this? Until everyone I know basically blew up mentally and don't really have their shit together.
Yeah.
I don't know if you care if I swear on here.
Not really, no. The only thing I say is I don't want people to use ethnic slurs because it doesn't have any benefit, but swearing sometimes does have a benefit where it's like fucking A, you know.
So I gotta put myself into Google mode. That's what I was wondering when I came on the stream. I was like, okay, so what are they streaming on? Because that matters nowadays.
Sorry I didn't tell you I wanted to message you, but my Facebook froze, and then I was just like, okay. Because the OBS, I guess, necessitates all the computer utilities there.
But yeah, I've had a bunch of friends who were really into politics, and when Trump happened and social media became what it is, they kind of shied away from politics. They got very scared of talking about everything and basically just disappeared off into the wilderness. I'm sure you've noticed many people do that.
It just feels like there's always been a really high turnover, but I think I was expecting that, so it didn't really faze me.
I wasn't. No, I expected people to go full bore into it, especially the people that I was around. I just expected them to take it head on, and no, they just folded immediately.
Yeah, it's projection. You know, we all think people are more like us than they really are, and there's just not a lot going on cognitively with most people, so they get scared because they don't really understand what you're saying, and it makes them uncomfortable that they're sort of put in a position where they have to respond to something that just they can't conceive of it.
And they're doing cost-benefit analysis.
I'm not sure if they are. Their cost-benefit analysis is that they don't want to deviate from normalcy as regards to social protocols. They'll do almost anything to avoid being singled out as not conforming to political correctness.
Well, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, so
I can see why you would.
But there are people out there who care about truth for its own sake, and those people you can get somewhere with them understanding abstract ideas, but the masses it's not on their radar. Like it's just
all the politics of personality for them.
It's nothing for them. For them, their whole life is a tiny little pin. It's a pinhole-sized light compared to what your consciousness is. It's like a little teeny pinhole with fuzzy edges, and the only thing they know is that if they say the wrong thing, they don't know how to judge what that is, but they know if they say it, they're going to be in trouble, and everyone's going to laugh at them.
That's terrifying.
So that's just what they're living all the time. So it's like, yeah, we can deride them as NPCs, but it's like, yo, it's kind of sad that that's what your experience is. You're not having the like serene beauty of introverted consciousness or inward looking consciousness. Like, there's no greater joy than having a self confidence associated with self knowledge. So they cannot even begin to conceive of what that is, because having self knowledge involves considering yourself in relation to the environment, and they cannot properly conceive of the environment.
I just love having the ability to cross reference.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
to think abstractly, right? The cross reference is something between two things. So you're going one level higher and drawing a line between those two things. So each level of abstraction that you can coherently remain in, you can think more and more and more and more and be like, world smarter. But for them, they don't even see the virtue of that, because they don't understand that that's what's going to get them out of the hole that they're in. They're comfortable in the hole. Yeah, it's a cage and it doesn't have a wide range. But it's like predictable for them. People crave that.
Yeah.
They crave familiarity. I'm sorry that you suffered as a result of your expectations of other people, though.
Sorry?
Get it. I said I'm sorry you suffered as a result of your expectations of other people, because like I can totally relate to that. I have high hopes that people will be interested in the same things as me, and it's like it just doesn't always happen because they can't make that link.
Well, like you said,
asking those questions is what makes you smarter. It's not about getting the answer. It's just about asking the question.
Yeah, like you said, it was inevitable, and it had to happen for me to learn that.
Well, yeah, like reality will literally just like crush you. And that's the whole wisdom of doing, self-improvement techniques, is to not have to have reality teach you the hard lesson. It hurts though. Like there's nothing more than the sting of disappointment when you had high hopes for somebody else, right? Because you can't have as much empathy for people
that you care about. Then it's very hard to have some kind of sense of common purpose.
I think the way to just look at that is like that you're part of something that they're part of also. You're just not meant to fulfill the same role. Like obviously it's beyond their capacity to think, but evolutionarily we just
that's what I was trying to point out with Doooovid.
There's not a lot of philosophers out there.
That's what I was trying to point out with Doooovid and entertainment is people who are looking for good entertainment. I was going to use that as an analogy for civilization at large, where you're talking about people who want vastly different things out of it. You can't assume that everybody wants civilization, because they don't.
Well, everyone wants to survive. So there is a broad strokes universalism that you can make, but then interpreting that universalism in a specific context, you're going to have a lot of problem with your own subjective biases coming into it in ways that if you never consider that the subjective bias is there, how are you ever going to find it?
Yeah. That's right.
It's too bad that you don't know who Ed Dutton is. Wait, you do know who Ed Dutton is? What do you think about him?
No, I don't. I've only heard.
All you know about him is that he streamed with Spencer.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is I wish that I could split my consciousness into like 4 or 5 or 6 different streams. There's too much to know. I can't focus. I can't focus on all the things that I want to.
Well, you have to figure out what you want to know most.
Exactly.
And then
so prioritize.
The thing is that you not having the knowledge, you don't understand how it operates. Like it operates as a unitary potential. So it's best to pursue something that you're passionate about, but ultimately like the knowledge is pretty much like applies to everything. I don't know how to really say it, but hopefully
I've heard his name in passing, and I've meant to look into him, Not because I assume I'm going to agree with anything he has to say, but just for the sake of he's one of these people that society has deemed, I don't know what the word would be.
Fringe, rogue, or he possibly a supporter of hate eugenics. I mean, I could frame it because Ed Dutton is actually probably like Kevin McDonald's, maybe even more important than Kevin McDonald's in terms of like a larger nationalistic movement. If you have someone like Reviler as a more representative base than people with PhDs, intellectuals, and I think Richard Spencer doesn't. He has a master's degree, but his expertise is Nietzsche. JF is a biologist, and Dutton is an anthropologist. Jared Taylor, I don't know his educational background, but promoting racial science. And so Dutton's approach to anthropology is more direct racial, and generally a unifying factor of the alt-right, which was interesting in my my role in debating against the alt-right, is opposition to the Frankfurt School of Anthropology of and the understanding that the Frankfurt School of Anthropology is responsible for the larger cultural changes that are affecting white people in the way that they believe white people are being affected. And so Dutton, in opposition to the mainstream Frankfurt School nowadays, is the Frankfurt School nowadays is the mainstream approach to anthropology, that Dutton's approach, like Kevin McDonald's, from the mainstream, is going to be rejected, that's rejected racial science.
Rejected racial science.
In the similar way that like quantum mechanics won out, I mean, not completely, but in academia, critical theory in the Frankfurt School largely won out in the university anthropology departments. And so views like Ed Dutton are not the ones largely representative or even taught in universities. I mean, guys like the bell curve, and even though I think it was a professor at Harvard, is very controversial in universities, and the mainstream in university is that race is a social construct and doesn't biologically exist, and that the IQ differences between racial groups or intellectual differences or even the cultural propensities is non-scientific.
Well, I would consider that an advanced claim compared to what I'm hearing over here, because over here it's basically they just deny any difference between the races whatsoever. They don't exist. There's no difference as far as our system of education is concerned.
Yeah, so from the historical alt-right perspective of the main intellectuals like Richard Spencer, Gregory Johnson, Jared Taylor, Kevin McDonald, was to pin this on Jews, and largely, specifically, the Frankfurt School of Anthropology, of Hockheimer and I just took my medicine, so these names aren't coming to my head. But I have their books of critical theory that Margaret Mead, that eventually took over Columbia and trained the main heads of the departments of the major schools of anthropology across the world today that were almost all heads of anthropology departments, not exclusively, but are representative of students of what was the Frankfurt School. And because the Frankfurt School was almost all Jews, after the war, ended up in Columbia and schools and university. And whether that's accurate or not, that was the claim of the general consensus of the alt-right. And it's like, to tie it into a conspiracy, that is actually a form of a Jewish coup to displace the white man.
Right. Why would they do that, though?
I mean, Jews.
Yeah.
Well, so from anthropological perspective, it's not a conspiracy. It's just individual people acting in the group interest, and in a collective way. You're going to have various people that are acting in the group interest in different ways, but that might, what we'll call like a mainstream strategy, that people within the collective tend to act in certain pattern ways, that you could pattern certain behavior that's characteristic to a certain people, because that's the mainstream strategy. So that Jews, for whatever reason, have a strategy to promote multiculturalism and various things that are in line with the Frankfurt School, and not necessarily with any negative purpose towards anybody else, but just because collectively that's our strategy in a way that benefits. And like a Kevin McDonald approach is just a simple group conflict or limited resource that Jews push to have society move in a direction that benefits Jews. And in a struggle of limited resources, the larger society will develop anti-Semitism in order to push back on control over limited resources. But in a way, from an anthropological perspective, you have names and places. And if you wanted to say a Jewish conspiracy, the conspiracy to a certain level, that why the Jews did it, but from a factual level, the Frankfurt School was almost all Jews, and took over anthropology. And so the conspiracy level is say that it was done because that benefits the Jews, and for whatever reason, maybe, God forbid, that could be in a negative way. Anthropological level would just be that there's some sort of collective strategy, or however you would look at it, that Jews have patterned behavior based on various genetic, anthropological, social reasons that are patterned to behave in a certain way. So pushing things like cultural relativism, you could say, yes, it's more likely a Jew is going to promote an idea like cultural relativism than a non-Jew. Hence, it's not surprising that there were multiple Jewish leading anthropologists that pushed the theory of cultural relativism that became dominant in the mainstream till today, where it's almost forgotten that there were opposing schools of thought one day.
I see. So, in other words, they see Jews as more just in the way as opposed to being weaponized against them.
They don't necessarily, I mean, you could see Jews from a variety of ways, but if you're a racial scientist and you're just looking, why is racial science rejected? And if you pin it scientifically from like a Kuhn structure of scientific revolution, it's because of the Frankfurt School of Anthropology successfully, intellectually took over the leadership of the whole field of anthropology. And the conspiratorial level is to say, and they were Jews, and it probably had something to do with them being Jews. And you could have a less conspiratorial view that to say it just happened that yet that because they were Jews, they were more likely to think in a way in line with theories like cultural relativism, but it wasn't a conspiracy. It was just a theory that was more in line with a Jewish outlook, and hence there were so many Jewish anthropologists that were able to successfully devise this theory, promote it, and so to say, rise to leadership in anthropology departments across the world.
I see.
And so Edward Dutton already, if he's got theories and he's saying like, okay, you look on Wikipedia, and he's he's already a dissident, and it could be like if he's in Finland or various places, like the maybe the Frankfurt School cultural relativism hasn't really taken over. It's really only in liberal democracies, maybe the U.S., maybe Australia, Canada, UK, but in other places, certainly Finland, but mainland Eastern Europe, it's unlikely that these things have these ideas have dominated society. And then you could just separate the ideas from the promoters of the theory. So maybe it was Jews who promoted the theory, but now you have this concept of cultural relativism that's a dominant theory, and you don't need Jews to promote the theory to have the theory of cultural relativism, so to say, administered to you whether you like it or not. Like it doesn't necessarily matter that there was a group of Jews in Frankfurt, 100 years ago who concocted this idea of cultural relativism.
I see. That's pretty much my understanding of their position. Although, I mean, it's hard to get a grasp of exactly what they think being censored everywhere. So.
Well, I mean, to the current situation where you have censorship. So the rise of the idea of cultural relativism, pardon me, to it becoming dominant in academia, to it becoming possibly dominant in governance, to being legislated, was unlikely to have been a conspiracy that there might have been a great mind who had a good feel for karma and saw that, predicted that things might change in this way, and based on that prediction, how that might benefit people who correctly acted in accordance with a belief that that this is the most likely direction of of affairs, like a prophecy on a certain point, but even like a scientific risk reward analysis scenario, but taking that approach to anthropology, and it's interesting that that is the general dynamic that people tend to see the world through. And even if you're a Christian, like a nihilist, in a certain point, cultural relativism is still, in my eyes, the default of like the cognitive dissonance of what does a person accept in their mind as the best solution to make sense of the difficulties of figuring out the outside world to their mind. And cultural relativism is it's a pretty good system. And once a person has been informed to the idea, there could be pushback and say, no, it's false. There's other theories that are more true. But you say, like in the West, or people who grew up with it, it could become like a default way for accepting information in the world, that it's just like it's relative, that different cultures relatively produce different ways of interacting, and it's not a question of good or bad, and it has to be measured and understood in a different way. And maybe now there could be a little bit of a pushback and say, well, there's a genetic racial aspect also, that factually people are different, and there's group strategy and mainstream strategy and questions of free will that you could call proclivities and what I call like boundary conditions, that people have the free will to change a proclivity and act in a way that's different to their natural inclination of how to act. But that's a form of enlightenment, that you have to take your own free will and actualize and recognize that my natural inclination is to act in a certain way, and I've gained an amount of self-control and enlightenment to control the body to act in a way that's against its natural self-inclination. And so anybody who's not on the process of enlightenment might not even know how to do that. And even if someone is on the process to enlightenment, there's infinite amount of things that need to be corrected in the path. So I mean, like me and Jennifer probably agree on like a spiritual approach to group anthropology. In a sense, it wouldn't be genetic, but there might be spiritual forces, and sometimes that could arise in ethnic groups, or sometimes that could arise in forces that cut through ethnic groups. Like there's spiritual forces that could bind people together from different ethnic groups that are more powerful than forces that bind people from the same ethnic group together. But like, yes, there's definitely forces that bind people from the same ethnic group together.
Okay. There's something weird in that. Just before the last thing you said.
We're saying that there could be forces that hold people from different ethnic groups together that are more powerful than the forces that hold people from the same ethnic group together.
Definitely.
That part?
No, it was the thing right before that. Sorry.
What about the boundary condition on free will?
Never mind. It's completely slipped out of my mind. Sorry, I got a little upset over that troll guy. But yeah, I did have...
Well, it's interesting, karma. You see that good things could come out of trolls. Like, I'm glad I met Dia. And I'm not upset at like Reviler. I hope I mean, if you were good with the stream, I guess you don't think there's any harm. You're not worried about having to take the stream down. I hope not.
Thanks.
But I mean, if you do, you have to do what you got to do. But like, no, I mean, I would not recommend people.
Nothing's been said, I don't think that's been bad.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I would
I
not
forget,
recommend people behaving like Reviler. That's not the type of behavior I recommend for people. But saying like that is within the realm of human nature, and when people act like that, from my perspective, like I think more people act like him than act like me, and that's why I was saying about self-control and refinement and the enlightenment process of recognizing that for whatever reason I have a natural inclination to act in a certain way, and I've taken some exertion force of self-control, call it free will or however you understand that process, to control myself to act in a way that's counter to my natural inclination. And to a certain extent, to explain how that's possible hinges on a solution to the hard problem of consciousness and like a question of free will. Is it possible that such a process exists? And then within a process of consciousness, a mechanism of consciousness that matches the brain or empirical experiences to truly map out and have a predictive model for these processes.
I'm kind of leaning towards it being an evolutionary function at the moment, to be honest. I mean, the
evolutionary point is to some extent beyond the topic, because the origin of the mind doesn't matter for having a predictive model for how the mind works, because conceivably great minds could figure out and map and solve the hard problem of consciousness and not solve the origin of consciousness and the origin of the mind. They might be unrelated issues, and a lot of the top thinkers, they're related, the same equations, but from a straightforward perspective, they're different questions. The mechanisms of how consciousness works and the origins of consciousness, just like the mechanisms of how the material realm operates and the origins of the material realm, or the nature of the soul and the origin of the soul. They're related, but could be approached as different subjects.
Right. I'm just speaking in terms of people, average person, seeing the value in understanding all of this. I'm talking about that as being.
Well, that's why I showed the. Well, I mean, Dutton, it's interesting. That's why I like Dutton, and I showed the Queen's Gambit review, is saying like, no, like chess sucks. Your average person is not interested in watching chess.
Yeah.
Like your average person does not want to show up for a science experiment and for Jennifer to explain some physics concept.
Yeah.
Or I mean, because that's
experience value in it themselves.
I mean, so Dutton has developed large-scale theories of the decline of intelligence, of the peak of human achievement in the 60s and 70s, and combined multiple research and studies and theories together to explain larger trends that could be argued or not, like the Flynn effect and the general idea that IQ is going down seems to be backed up by evidence. And if you want to say like he was recent video that the peak and pinnacle of human achievement was in the 60s and 70s, and that now with the Flynn effect, there it's in decline, and to give explanations of from an anthropological perspective, I mean it's quite interesting, and you could disagree, and obviously that's pretty theoretical, but from me and Jennifer's perspective, like I mean we're trying to solve, we're trying to tackle the most difficult questions, so I like Professor Dutton in that perspective, like he's trying to tackle, he calls it controversial, but I mean at the end of the day, I think the hard problem of consciousness is probably more important than anthropology, because at the end of the day, most of the deeper questions of anthropology will hinge on the hard problem of consciousness. So you could have a bunch of information that's interesting, like Professor Dutton and all his studies and various correlations between behaviors and different things, but to draw a larger conclusion, it'll probably hinge on the hard problem of consciousness. So it's saying we can review, we're more focused on that key question of the hard problem of consciousness.
I see. Before I forget, like I was going to mention this before, this Google Hangouts, BitChute is working on an alternative to that, as well as live streaming.
This isn't integrated in YouTube. This is done with OBS and Hangouts.
No, I know, but they have their own Hangout software.
Well, BitChute has streaming now. As far as I know, BitChute didn't have live streaming unless they just got it very recently.
This is not part. It will be part of their live streaming infrastructure, but it's just a piece of software as of right now.
Yeah, I mean I'm libertarian, like, and I also have somewhat fundamental religious beliefs. So the thought of like mass chaos breaking out to me is not surprising. You even say it's predicted. It's predicted in scripture. It's predicted in karmatic understandings. I mentioned the COVID-19, the calm before the storm now, where the case infections are really high, but it's going to be another few weeks until it starts hitting, and the hospitals, God forbid, are going to be overflowing, and there's going to be, God forbid, full morgatories. But the greater important issues facing humanity that is important for people to come together. And the elections also, like Trump and Biden. I was on Charles Moskowitz, and he's like still shilling for Trump, and there's a lot of people still shilling for Trump, and who knows, and what's going to carry on in a few weeks. It's a process, and the process is meant to take a while. So even though Biden's declared victory, that the official day for the government to certify it's still a few weeks away. What happens in those few weeks? People predict that maybe Trump leaves the White House, denies that he lost, tells people that he thinks it was rigged, and if you guys really want Biden, you'll get what you deserve, and then what happens to the U.S. and so it's interesting to analyze those scenarios. But said like Week in Review and Jennifer's perspective, understanding the current state of karma is more explanatory, because if you understand the current state of karma, understanding politics is quite easy, because politics is usually a reaction to the current state of karma.
I see. I lost the link to the software. I was just looking for it.
Damn.
I was going to show you it because it's a beta version. It's basically just like this, though.
Cool. Well, I have to use OBS on top of this, so you're not seeing everything that I'm doing, but it works. To me, it works just fine. I love OBS.
Yeah, I know, but it's a matter of, like, as we're sitting here speaking, I'm thinking to myself about all the things that we can and cannot say, because this is a Google platform.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty fine with that, but I'm saying like you got to approach it on your own perspective, and you're saying like, yeah, and saying and if you're going to be on multiple platforms and you have different behaviors, like if you're a parent and you have different behaviors when the kids are around or when they aren't, or people act in different ways, their best behavior, professional circumstance, and yeah, I mean, that's how it's going to be, and it's unlikely that there's going to be any way to get around those rules, and but that doesn't mean that your voice can't be heard and there won't be other platforms. And if you could demonstrate impulse control and behavior control, it you'll be better. Like saying just a little bit of impulse control, it's not that difficult to not do the things that will get you in trouble, regardless of opinion of whether it's fair or not that those rules exist in the first place.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not.
And just mention, I had streamed a few months ago Henry Doktorsky, who had done that book Killing for Krishna and 11 Naked Emperors, is now finally coming out with his 10-part, 10-volume Gold, Guns, and God, the official biography of Swami Bhaktipada, the founder of New Vrindavan in West Virginia. And so 10 volumes covering decades of history, hundreds of people that founded Hindu Krishna community in West Virginia, and the interesting adventures. So I ordered, for whatever reason, he came out with volume like 3 first and then 5. So I got volume 3 first. I actually have volume 5 now also. And I pre-ordered volume 1, but I'll probably have him on my channel in the next few weeks to talk about that. So I wanted to mention that also.
Right on. Yeah, I'm not speaking in terms of myself. I could care less if I blow up my channel. But to go on other people's live streams and get their...
Well, if you have a channel, you have to produce regular content to keep your viewership. I mean, you could have, like, if Jennifer took a year hiatus, like, she might still keep a good few hundred subscribers, but generally there's a time function that the less content you produce, the slower your increase subscribers, and eventually you start losing subscribers, and so you need a certain minimum amount of content to not lose subscribers. And if you have some sort of professional relationship, like I keep on telling Jennifer, like, the monologue to speak to her viewers, where you have like you develop a relationship with your viewers where they're are interested in what you're doing. They expect to hear from you, and you got to tell them I'm not going to be talking to you for a little bit, and so when you become an e-personality in a streamer, you have to approach it in a certain way, and it's in these like best practices. And maybe someone like Dia generally has a good e-personality and might have the makings for a successful streamer.
Well, my favorite is Pat Condell, but he's not a streamer. He just
What do you consider yourself, though? Like whether you want to, it's okay. You don't, say if you've determined like, no way I'm streaming under my own identity. And then the question, okay, do you want to create an e-identity? And then it's okay, I'm not going to stream under my legal identity, but I'm not really scared if people find out my my real identity. I just stream under Doooovid, but if someone really wants to look into who I am, I'm not scared, and it's pretty simple to find out. Or you're going to say you're going to stream under an e-identity, and you don't want people to figure out who you are, and various factors that you'd have to look into. And then you have the creation of the e-identity that, like, here is me. I decided I'm going to go with Nano. Here I am, I'm Nano. And, then all of your activities are going to fit around this personality that you've created, that in some ways a mirror of your real personality, but is also a little bit confined, like in a certain way. Like I've been playing chess on the internet, and sometimes you could just close your account and choose a new name and open up a new account, and people might figure out and say like, oh, it's the same guy, but like if you ruined your identity, you could just close down your account and start a new name and play under a new name. And
Right.
And streaming in some way is the same way. But like, WWE or something like that, like the dudes that like keep on coming back under a new name, usually those are the losers. Like if you're gonna have a winning streaming identity, chances are you're gonna want to pick one and stick with it, probably even the rest of your life.
Right. Yeah, I come out of the time of the internet where you needed a username. There was actually a concept of anonymity. Not anymore. That's pretty much dead. So that's the reason I have a username. If it wasn't for that, I'd just be Adam Hirschfeld.
Yeah, or even an identity around the topics you like to talk about. Like if you say, okay, like I stream, but there's a handful of topics that I talk about when I stream, like Babylonian Hebrew or something like that. Saying this, like when he streams, he likes to talk about Jewish stuff, or whatever Forex shark. Saying that like his identity is Forex. Like that's what he talks about. Like he is a person, real flesh and blood, but like basically that's all he talks about. So that's his identity. And Luke Ford could be his own brand. Even Ed Dutton, like he's almost his own brand. His personality is unique enough that he's he is his own brand.
Right.
Doooovid is like the alter ego of the guy who really wanted to be like a rabbi or just talk about Judaism and philosophy, and created an e-identity to do that. And like Jennifer, like the boring sound lab technician that created this alternative identity, Church of Entropy.
Whoa! I was not boring pre Church of Entropy. Okay, it was always awesome.
And meanwhile, solved the world's most difficult problems. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's like it's a heavy cross to bear, right, so to speak, because it's like I pre-know how bad the reaction is going to be, but it's like I'm hoping in time people will see that it was a gesture of motivated by love.
Doovid's roommate was a good enough meme that I think that that's still the handle. Doovid roommate, he's still using it. good for him. I'm saying like that was that like he might be using that one the rest of his life. Like Doovid's a landlord. Like I could see like you're like no like Doovid's like 40 years later like Doovid's still my landlord. And I even like your kids, you'd be like 3 generations now is like your great grandkids, like my great grandkids are your great grandkids landlord.
Doovid's landlord's son type deal.
Well, I was saying Doovid's roommate is a good meme and it's still successful. Like that was just King Kush. Like he doesn't need a new name. Like I think like that one's a winner. You could keep that one. Like Brundle's already like Ricardo, like Howie Hellbent. I would not be surprised like if he flips the script in like like a new identity, and like whatever the new identity of Howie Hellbent. That wouldn't surprise me. But like Doovid's roommate, like I think that one's a keeper. But
I've seen a couple of
who
his
knows?
pseudonyms. He hasn't always gone by Howie Hellbent, so that was accurate. But yeah, I did have a few things to go over in terms of novel research. There's this incredibly awesome rendering. And I realize I haven't even sent you the link yet, Nano.
Rendering.
Do you know how to find this show? Because I'm sorry, I haven't been able to send you the link. I sent you the Hangouts link and then the thing just froze.
Thank God for high-speed internet.
Yeah. It's the OBS. It just hijacks the processor. Anyway, it's on my channel, Church of Entropy. So if you want to see it, or I'll send it to you eventually if you don't have it right now. But yeah, this one is cool because it's basically showing a very realistic portrayal of the state, the so-called black holes, which I don't even think it's really a misnomer to call them. I mean, I don't know what you could call them that would be better than a black hole, but looks kind of like an oscillator with 2 parts, and they're calling that an electron. Not sure that that's really the best metaphor for it, but it's a binary oscillator. And then when there's this collision course with the oscillator, when you get a hyperdense region, that's what can cause a new stellar formation, right? So you need to have them line up perfectly to basically shove out some mass in the process. So that I thought that was really neat, and that's pretty recent. The other thing we were talking about was like, I don't know if you're into this at all, but it's artificial intelligence. Nano, we're like had a big digression into he didn't exactly say what his job was, but he was familiar with a certain type of encoding or compression rather for video data that wiped out and basically reconstructed the greens on a linear combination of red and blue. So reconstructing green without info about green. And he was like telling us about how accurate it was and about another thing called the perceptron. And I was writing. Have you heard of that?
No.
I was writing about my theory this week. So like trying to, be a good sport for Doovid trying to write his book. And I realized that the perceptron came up in this article pretty long because it goes into a pretty big background definitions and stuff about speaker comparison and how they developed supercomputers basically to compare speech samples to see if it's the same person. And it turns out the neural nets, I didn't know this, but yeah, neural nets are like supposedly modeled after the human consciousness. And I happen to find that description of a neural net in this particular publication was pretty accurate. And it was saying how I'm going to try to find the actual page that I'm thinking of It's just this tremendously huge introduction. Just
Well,
hang on a sec. Just hang on a second. I'll be right back.
All right.
You know how to monologue, Nano? You know how to just talk to the 17 viewers directly?
Do I have a what?
Do you know how to monologue and just talk directly to the 17 viewers we have now?
Well, yeah, sure. On the subject of artificial intelligence, I don't really subscribe to the idea of artificial intelligence. I just see intelligence.
We're not talking about like computer consciousness. We're talking about applied models that they call artificial intelligence, not synthetic consciousness.
Okay, fair enough. I'd still just consider that an extension of intelligence, some form of intelligence. Like they have the same thing right now with imaging, recreating imaging. Gaming is the latest, which is how I learned about it, is the latest manifestation of it, but we're creating images from previous images using neural networks.
Okay,
exact same thing you're talking about.
That is indeed what we're talking about.
Only it's being used for a slightly different purpose.
Well, we're actually talking about it as a model. There are 2 instances of it being implemented, which is why I'm bringing it up as a model, because now that there's 2 instances of it, I can do meta by drawing the link between them and ascending one layer of abstraction. But yeah, we'd gone into a bit of a deep conversation about how neural networks work with that. His name was Aiden, right? Anyway, that guy that came on 2 weeks ago, and he was saying that perceptron, he was going on about perceptrons for a while. So I thought it was interesting that I found it in this paper, which covers the progress of, because these neural nets and these GMM UBMs, the motivating, I think, or at least one of the motivating factors was speaker ID for this problem.
Perceptron, I've never heard of this.
Yeah, me neither. But it's interesting that it sort of overlaps and stuff. So the most recent thing that I found was that a neural net was able to, let me see if I can pull the article up. Let's see here. It just provided like a super accurate modeling for a fluid. And it was using a neural net. Like a neural net is basically a more realistic version of a GMM UBM because it's allowing information to be encoded in a quantum manner, because they do a distributed stepwise transition. So it's like, I'm just pulling it up right now. So basically, because the underlying model, the neural net, is superior to GMM UBM, which is just matrix multiplication, it can store more information. Because these computers are so advanced, like they do run up on the limitations of like actual computing power at times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just blown away. Sorry, go ahead.
They're bumping up against material capability and speed of light, basically.
I don't know what you would call it. It would be like some kind of Moore's law restriction, like just what can a computer actually?
From what I understand, it's more of a guideline, but.
Oh, I know it's not an actual law. I'm just saying that whatever corresponds to that is what it's doing is showing the limitations on the denser, the transistor density. So you have more capacity to do more of these computations if you have a higher, transistor density, but then you run up against the limit, which is just like the implementational, this like, does it scale type thing? Does your algorithm scale? Blah, blah, blah. There's, as you know, bottlenecks. And they only have, I think, a couple years to do this, and like tons and tons and tons of data and stuff. So it's sort of designed to converge at a certain point. But yeah, it's amazing. Basically, what I like about this research is that it proves that archetypes exist and that archetypes store the majority of the information about a system, because if they didn't, then we wouldn't be able to extract these models to this accuracy. So like basically, you want to know how different reality is from archetypes. It's like, well, almost not at all. Because this is showing you that like even when it's trained on data from other fluids and it gets a new fluid, it's going to know how to model it to this enormous degree of accuracy.
So they know that there is no in between.
It's not about being in between. It's about the way information is stored in a metaphysical sense. Because like
Okay.
are different systems, like to what extent are different systems with the same constituents the same, and to what extent are they different? That's solving the information question, is like, where is the system's energy being stored? And the answer is in its archetype.
Right.
And that's why we can't find, we have a hard, because archetypes are metaphysical, we have a hard time observing them. But these machines that are using huge amounts of data find them through brute force. And that's the only reason why this type of technology can work, because if it was truly random and there wasn't information saturated in an archetype, this type of modeling wouldn't be possible, because there wouldn't be any information to extract.
And it wouldn't be accurate.
It wouldn't give accurate predictions like this. Like, to me, this is literally amazing. Like, I'm looking at it and I can't see a single difference. So I just think it's really cool. And if we can learn this and compare it to GMM UBM, we can understand what the next step is forward in implementing an actual quantum computer. So that'll be a fun project too, because it's like a step in, like a neural net is like a step in the quantum direction from a pure GMM UBM. Because the GMM UBM is subject to the axioms of a transistor computer, right? You getting tired, Doovid?
He's still there?
Yeah, I'm listening, but yeah, I'm kind of dazing off.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, I just had a couple things that I wanted to go over. There was like the connectome. I don't even know where I found this, but what can the brain's connectome harmonics tell us about consciousness? This is a pretty recent one. I thought it was interesting. Basically, just more evidence in support of the quantum mind and seeing how the body actually can be created in some sense, like a ghost version of the body can be created from particular harmonics of a waveform that at some point in the past was a sphere, but then got bent a bunch of times. So it was basically in it for the diagrams, but also the connectome came up, which I think is another one of these hypothetical concepts we need to be sort of familiar with in order to actually implement it. And then the biggest news that I saw was this article from, I think I sent it to you, Doovid, the one about the neuroscience of consciousness from Oxford by John Joe McFadden.
Yeah, the stuff on the language processing from the computer is interesting. I've been approaching the issue largely from chess programs, because that's my field. Chess or I have more expertise in it, but the same processes of the machine learning are really affecting all fields, and a person could develop an understanding from any field that they research it in, and even relate to consciousness, like you mentioned. Language is very important, and I've been focusing on chess because chess is a good model of decision making, and language has a decision making element to it, but not necessarily in the same way as like a game. But a model for the hard problem of consciousness will have to properly explain all of these mental activities.
Well, if people don't understand the axioms, they're not going to understand the theories, even if the theory's right. So it'll end up a struggle on the axiom level where people like either accept them or they don't, because the conclusions follow from the axioms.
Yeah, and so it's so important to really work to formulate something in a solid way, like a theory that will stand the test of time because it was properly formulated.
Yeah, this guy's got another quantum consciousness theory. So he invokes ideas like integrated information. And I think that's really important. And he also talks about the brain's global electromagnetic field. And he's basically saying the exact same thing as me. He does make a couple of errors, but he's essentially got it all correct. So I was really just interested in the language because it does appear that this guy's been working on this stuff for like 20 years at least, but he hasn't published much. I guess he feels like he can publish again, that something's different now. So maybe the information centralizer thing will end up being the reason people crack and go along with the quantum consciousness as the explanation. Because like I got into a big argument with two people, and they were like, I was like, quantum consciousness, like consciousness, the default position for consciousness is that it's quantum mechanical. Not saying you have to give an interpretation, but the reasonable position to have, given everything else we know about the universe, is that consciousness is governed by quantum mechanics. Not saying anything about how it's governed, but just the fact that it is, that should be the default hypothesis. That was what the argument was over, and they just wouldn't concede. And they were coming back with these arguments, like just really weak arguments that try to like undermine my logic, but not really presenting any logic of their own. And it just got so, it basically came down to quantum's too hard, so I don't want to, so it can't be right because it's too hard. But yeah, anyway, I guess we can probably wrap up soon because it seems like it's been a bit of a long one, or over 3 hours. I enjoy myself with the new guests.
I'm glad we got some new characters. Even Reviler, I guess, if you successfully got the worst, edited the worst parts out, or successfully did make sure that wasn't live, like even that wasn't that bad. And I'm glad that karma led to Dia, and we'll see if her series or success she has. And I'm glad she came on Week in Review. And Nano, glad you came here. Not that much development in me or Jennifer's work, but we're still plugging along. And look forward to Tuesday at Dutton, 2:00 Eastern time. And with that, a great week. Thanks again, Jennifer, and see everyone next week.
Thanks for having me.
I'll sign off if you want to keep it going, or monologue.
Cool. Did you want to say anything else, Nano?
I don't think so.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on and sharing your opinions. I hope it was interesting for you. Really appreciate your contribution. And
it's pretty rare to get me thinking about things.
Yay! Mission accomplished.
I'm pretty tired too because I did 18 hours straight of snow removal. So.
Oh my God. Well, go get some rest and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for coming on.
You guys have a good night.
It looks like Aiken is back in the chat. Yo, that was so much fun talking that one time. I've been doing more research, so that's interesting too. I think I sent you a meme or a diagram or whatever we're calling them now. So yeah, glad you're checking back in, and we understand that you're busy. So whenever you can or want to come on, just let us know, and you're more than welcome because we respect that you have a busy schedule. So yeah, thanks for the new viewers tonight. I appreciate it a lot. It's great to see people interested, and still be nice to have like a little more subject relevant questions in the chat. So I know it's hard to stay on topic, but you might learn something. You might find something that you learn enjoyable. And yeah, that's about it. I've been writing most of the week, so I've got a bunch of words, but it's still looking like crap. So just gonna have to keep on trying it. Did you return it? I swear I didn't see that. Okay, so I'm gonna have to check my messages again. I might not have noticed it. You know what? I thought because you sent it, but there was nothing written in the email. I thought you were trying to forward it to someone else, but you'd accidentally forward it to me. But I will recheck it now that I know that there's edits. I can rush through things sometimes. My apologies. It'll be fun whenever it manages to happen. Until then, hope everyone has a great week. And Howie will be putting out a new video. I always watch Howie's new videos, so feel free to check that out. And yeah, take care, everyone.
Yeah, but that's just so to say, a worthless opinion of.
It's so important that she can't be told, she won't be told that it's wrong. And
bringing it back to Church of Entropy in her attack dog Gandalf the White.
Why don't you learn to shut up and fuck your goddamn logic?
They control the media, and the media is capable of making the sheeple believe in anything.
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, we've had these streams, and I've been doing with Church of Entropy, and she's been bringing on new people, and like we did those streams on like stream etiquette. We walked through like the technology.
I know. I have like very strongly negative opinions of the kind of Brundle clique.
Is she trying to garner herself cult prestige by associating herself with a retard?